Yo, yo, yo! Welcome to the live stream. We're starting a little bit early, just to obviously give you guys a chance to all get ready, get your stuff ready, get your notepads ready. I've set all this up. This is obviously my first live stream, and I'm very excited to show you guys everything that's on here because we've got a lot of stuff to delve into, right? I've spent some time building this out, and I'm sure a lot of you, whether you're new to my channel on Instagram or you've been following me for a while, you're looking forward to learning more, because I know a lot of you do truly care about your health, you care about your fitness, you care about everything around that. So in this live stream, that is exactly what we're going to be going over. So I'll give it a few minutes and just wait for some more guys to join. If you guys want to ask any questions in the meantime, fire away. I'm actually going to open this chat tab here so I can run this when I'm. There we go. It's perfect. Literally about half hour ago, before doing this live stream, I've had a pre-stream meal. Cooked a bunch of lamb's liver for the first time, which actually, honestly, tastes really nice. I don't know if any of you guys watching have had offal, you eat animal organs or whatever, but when you eat liver, you eat like lamb's liver or any kind of organ meat, especially ox liver, it can be very strong, and I don't know. There's something about the taste; it can be quite overwhelming. But when you try kidney, it's very different, and that's exactly what I had just before this, was some lamb's kidney. You have to cut it all up to make sure there's not this horrible bit that goes into it when you cook. But I feel great as a result, right? All those micronutrients. What's your favourite source of protein? It's definitely red meat, right? Hands down, my favourite source of protein is red meat, because it's the most bioavailable. Not only just because of the protein, but because of everything else that is in the red meat, right? You've got the amino acids, you've got the saturated fats, you've got all the micronutrients. It's not just the protein that is going into your body, right? You use the protein, but your body uses all the micronutrients to basically be able to access that protein. That's why a lot of bodybuilders are talking shit when they say, "Oh, just have chicken and rice because chicken is the highest protein per calorie and it's a lean meat." No, it's not full of parasites. No, there's certain meats that are, for example, pork. Right? If you, in fact, I actually went to a place today. It's not like a zoo. It's like a farm open to the public, and there were pigs roaming around. And this pig, right? It was drinking out of this puddle, eating random bits of shit off the floor. Don't know what it was doing, and then it literally went to the toilet in this same puddle that it's drinking out of. Right, and there's a reason why so many religions, so many people across the world do not eat pork, because those animals do have a lot of parasites. And like with any meat, there can be parasites if it's unclean, but certain animals are predisposed to it. Another weird one that a lot of people don't know is bear meat. Not that any of you probably are eating bear, but at the same time, you can't access your ticket. Well, it's all right if you're in the chat. Then that's what matters. I had some guys say there were some bugs with the tickets, but most people seem to be getting on all right. But as long as you're here, as long as you can see my screen, you can talk, then that's all good. But yeah, bear meat, ironically, is one of the most parasitical types of meat out there. You have to be so precise in the way that you cook it, because if you don't, then you end up with parasites and everything, and it's often because of the animal's diet. Well, there's a reason why we don't eat animals that are predators typically. And the only bear that people tend to eat are bear that eat lots of berries, eat lots of fruit, because it makes the meat a lot better quality and reduces the chances of those parasites. So yeah, if you could pick one meat for your protein source, once again, red meat, bro. So steak. I mean, if you want to be really specific, I would choose sirloin because it's the most universal cut, right? Ribeye, good, can be quite heavy, caloric, especially when you're trying to cut. Sirloin, you still got that nice strip of fat, tastes good, got lots of iron, lots of amino acids and all the right stuff in it. Right. Anyway, so it's 2 minutes over. We will do more questions later, but this is the presentation, right? So I'm going to temporarily close this chat window here. Make sure we're all good. So what I want you guys to do, right, is settle down, get comfortable, have a notepad and pen at the ready, right, and be ready to get into this. Because we're going to be going over quite a lot. We're going to go over my story, we're going to go over what my method is, how I came about discovering it, what it's going to change for you, the importance of testosterone, the real life examples of people that are using this method now, from my clients to actual famous people. There's quite a few, believe it or not. And we're going to go into this and really, I'm really going to walk you through and show you what is there to be accomplished, because a lot of people just go their whole lives without ever truly unlocking what their potential was with testosterone, right? And that was me for a very, very long time. So yeah, we will get into this, but so welcome. Let's start. Right, so the main goal today is to educate as many men as possible about the process of natural testosterone optimization. Okay, so men with high testosterone and a great physique are a rare breed. You are literally less than 1% of the population if you have high testosterone, if you're in fantastic shape, if you have all of those things together. How do you know this? Well, when you go to the gym, who do you see at the gym? Most guys in the gym aren't actually in that good shape. Right? A lot of them might have some muscle mass. They have like a kind of build where when they're wearing a baggy shirt, they've got shoulders, they've got arms, but they don't really look that strong. Right? They're not in that good shape. They won't take their shirt off still. And then when you look into their diet, you look into their blood work, you look into the way they perform, like day to day. A lot of them are living at like 20% of what they could be, right? So it doesn't matter whether you're in the gym lifting weights. A great physique is so much more than that, and I've been trying to say this for a very long time. It's not like the gym is maybe 10-20% at a push of what you need to see amazing results. There are farmers living in the back arse of nowhere, right, in the middle of Asia, who just move around. They don't lift weights, and they're ripped. They've probably got really high testosterone. They're probably very healthy, and they don't struggle with being in shape at all. They eat, some of them do have an abundance of food. They're not all starving, right? But it's the way their hormones perform and the way their body performs. And now in Western society, you look at men, no one has that. Like, genuinely, no one is doing it. If you go to the gym and if you were to interview like 100 guys at the gym, you might speak to like 2 that are aware of what I'm going to be talking about today and what some of you guys are aware of, right? A lot of you guys watching this are a rare breed within yourselves. If I go to a gym, I'm probably not going to speak to many people like you who have this awareness about testosterone. Most guys, it's just, it's there. Or I guess I've got to take TRT after 30. Like, that's the attitude towards it. So if you want to become less, like in the less than 1%, focus on your testosterone, because it's so transformational, and like you say, that like there's a universal rule: the best things in life often require more dedication, more hard work, and therefore are rarer. So when something like this is super, super rare, what does that tell you about what it can do for you? Right, so anyway, this is me, right? So I am obsessed about testosterone, right? As some of you can probably guess. And over the past few years, I've been posting lots of content about testosterone, and it has impacted hundreds of men, right, directly and indirectly, who are making these changes to their life. And it's a very satisfying job, put it this way, when guys are coming to me saying, like, I've implemented this and I feel different today because I changed my diet around, or I've spoken to family members and my family are waking up to it. It's very satisfying, and I've always been kind of obsessed with the whole testosterone thing. because I think it stemmed from like, it's going quite deep, but when I was quite young, I always cared about masculinity, and that was mainly because of the way I was raised by my dad. He was a very traditional, old school father, right? I remember lessons being taught to me like from a very young age, and he would say like, you got to stand up for yourself. Like if there's a bully at school, you got to just hit him. Don't tell the teacher. Like he was very old school, and that kind of traditional way of teaching and thinking, I think, stuck with me for a very long time. And as I've gotten older, naturally I've realised like most men just don't think in a very masculine way, and that bleeds into health and ultimately testosterone, because testosterone is directly linked. It's hormonal, so it's linked to the way you think and perform. If you got the same man, let's say you got me, and halved my testosterone levels, I would literally behave differently. I wouldn't have the confidence to come on here and talk. I would be nervous. I would be shy, right? Social anxiety. I would speak less in public settings. I wouldn't voice my opinion when someone's talking absolute shit, right? It literally changes you. So I've always kind of been obsessed with it, but it's only in the past couple of years that I've really, truly realised what it is and how testosterone is the kind of, yeah, it's the pinnacle of all of those things, right? When you look at the kind of pussy behaviour of most men today, how most men don't take care of themselves, how most men are out of shape, how most men just aren't performing well, it all funnels into testosterone levels. Yeah, and it sounds crazy how you can literally just fix your diet, have higher testosterone, and be a completely different person, right? It sounds crazy, but it is. You know, a few years ago, I would not be the type of person I am now, having the confidence to even get on camera, making content on Instagram and everything else that I'm doing. So yeah, but my mission today is to expose everything, right? Everything that I've learned that's led up to this point. Yeah, because there's a lot, and I've tried many things, as you will see in this presentation. I've tried many things that just didn't work, right? And I thought they would. I thought it would be the answer, and then when you try that thing, it's the next thing, and then it's the next thing, and now I'm actually at a point where I've got the results, and you know, I'm here. So now, what I want to say, right, elephant in the room, a lot of you are probably thinking this, but here's the deal, right? So this masterclass is completely free. I want to give you guys as much value as I can without you having to pay me, right? This is completely free, and this is going to be uploaded, right? You can watch this. You're going to have all the information there. But you should know something, right? At the end of this, right, if you get enough value from this, I want to make a deal with you guys. If you get value from this, I will be pitching my coaching offer at the end, of course. Now, this doesn't mean I'm trying to forcefully sell you this coaching, because for one, I am actually quite selective about who I work with. I turn down men every week onto my program, or who want to come onto the program, because they're not a good fit, right? And through years of doing this, I've learned who is a good fit, who sees results, and who is just there to bullshit. But I will be offering this at the end. So for those of you who are really serious, right, at the end of this, I want to make a deal with you. If you don't feel like you got value from this, then don't even watch that part of me pitching. Right? I want you to click off and go about your day. You know, it's not worth your time. But if you have got value from this, stick around, listen, because what I'm saying might change your perspective on things. So, I'm just getting that out of the way, being up front with you guys, right? That is what's going to happen at the end. I'm not fake. Of course, I have a coaching offer. Of course, I want to get paid for it. And of course, I want to help as many people as possible. And unfortunately, there's only so much you can do in terms of doing that for free online, right? Some people, in fact, a lot of people, need that one-to-one element. So anyway, let's get started into my story and how I got into this. So I wasn't always the version that you see now, right? And as you can see from this photo here, for a very long time, I was skinny fat, right? And this is me when was this? About 3 years ago, 2022. And I remember this exact photo. It was on holiday in Marbella. And, it was like a proper lads holiday, right? Went with 6 old friends. A couple of them I still talk to now. And it was a great holiday. It was actually a crazy story I can tell you guys about that holiday. We got into a fight. Me and 2 of my mates basically had like a 3-on-3 with these local Spanish lads outside of a club along the kind of strip in Marbella. And I won't like tell the full story. Long story short, this was when I was first training as an MMA fighter before I had my first fight. So I was getting a bit more confident in myself. I didn't actually start the fight with these guys, but they basically thought that we were talking to one of the guys' girlfriends, which we weren't. It was actually a totally different group to us, but I guess to them, like, the group that was talking to the girlfriend was Irish. And I think to them, they just kind of thought we were all related because we were all white, English, whatever. And then this fight started. And in short, we ended up fucking up all three of them, right in front of the club where everyone was watching. I ended up taking, well, my friend took one guy down, and I ended up choking him unconscious in a rear naked choke. And then we had this other guy who came around, he started kicking me in the head, and then my friend was punching him, and eventually, like, one of them just completely ran away, the other one was unconscious on the floor, and the other one was kind of standing there not knowing what to do. But then we got the fuck out of there. It was a crazy holiday. And yeah, that was fun, right? And that was the skinny fat, low test version of me, right? If that was me now, I probably would have just not wanted to fight, because believe it or not, high testosterone often makes you a bit more calm. A lot of people seem to think it makes you angry, and it's actually the total opposite. You become a bit more switched on. Like, yes, you can snap when you need to, but you are more controlled over your emotions and situations, and it comes in handy. So yeah, just going back to that, as you can see, like, you know, even my skin back then, like, I couldn't tan. This was after a week in the sun, right? In the sun, I was using sun cream, but I was in the sun, and look at me, I look like a bag of yogurt, right? I was not, like, my body, my skin, everything was not healthy, and you could see it in the way I looked. Yeah, and some people will think this is a good physique. Like, if you consider that a good physique, you need to really kind of open your eyes to what's possible. Because that physique is about 18 to 20% body fat, very little muscle mass, lots of inflammation, terrible estrogen to testosterone ratio, and as a result, bad brain fog, feeling like crap. You know, like, I look back at this and I felt like 20% of what I feel now. And the physique is just a reflection of that. So, you know, I had tried everything over a period of a few years. That photo was kind of at the start of that era, but I tried a lot, right, to get in shape. I always wanted to be in shape, but I tried a lot, and nothing ever truly clicked, right? The reason why I trained 6 times per week is because I was training to be an MMA fighter. You don't get more intense training than that. You go to the gym, right? I lift a couple of times a week, strength and conditioning, and then I'm in the MMA gym sparring, doing hours of cardio, of bag work, of pad work, of, you know, like, burning thousands of calories, right, every time, and it wasn't enough, right? I mean, I say that enough is probably the wrong word. It's not that it wasn't enough, it's that it was. Just checking that everything's running correctly. Sorry guys, bear with me. It wasn't that it's not enough, it's that it was basically... Oh, I lost my train of thought. It wasn't that it wasn't enough, it was that it was the wrong approach, right? Not enough would mean I need to do more output, more work, and that's not what was required of me at all in terms of the goals that I wanted, which was to get in fantastic shape and feel good and be healthy, right? Yeah, and I used to track calories all the time. I was eating a lot of goy slop back then, but I would weigh quite a lot of stuff, right? I'd weigh out everything I would have, like, granola in bowls, I would have sandwiches, and I even went for a phase where I was actually weighing sandwiches, which is like the most retarded thing ever when you think about it. You know, I'm putting bread on a thing, like weighing the bread and stuff, but I was that meticulous about it because I cared so much, and it didn't work, right? It didn't work because hormones were fucked. Yeah, I didn't really know what I was doing. I was doing lots of cardio, high intensity training. I was doing 10k runs back then, which, you know, I hated running, and I still do now. I just don't enjoy it. Some people like it, and if you like it, I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but don't run because you think you have to. I see so many people who embark on a weight loss journey and they just suddenly start running because it's like, well, that's the thing to do, right? But then they start running and they end up hating it. You know, your knees are fucked for one. Right, you end up with shin splints, you burn out, you don't enjoy it. With running, you actually spike your cortisol so much higher than your hunger and everything else and all the benefits. So your cortisol is like up here, your hunger hormones are up here, and your benefits are like here, right? The fat loss, the everything else, right? And it actually breaks down muscle mass because it's catabolic. So it's not worth it if you're just trying to get in shape and have good hormones. You might as well go for long walks, maybe do some Stairmaster or do some sprints, right? But we'll get into that later. So yeah, and I was working full time back then as well. So living for the weekends, right? I used to go out to Weatherspoons at the weekend. We'd have a few pints, and then I started not drinking. So I started trying to go out with the same people, but not drink. Like you can guess how that turned out. And like some days I would drink, some days I would stay disciplined, but then I'd just hate the evening. I'd be bored. I'd be hungry as well. So I'd just end up eating instead of drinking, right? It's just a weird way to live. And yeah, it was shit. Like there was no structure. I was hanging around with the wrong people. I was trying too hard. My goals and clarity was all over the place. Like it was a mess, right? And eventually, right. So you can see this is me. This was actually one of my pre-fight photos. I think it was before my third fight. So I had 5 fights in total when I did MMA, and this was before my third. And I just looked skinny fat, right? And I even look a bit kind of inflamed. I don't have that kind of sharp look in my eyes, and my skin's pale. And yeah, I was unhappy with it, right? And I didn't even perform well as a fighter. Like my fighting skills were good, but anyone who understands fighting and being an athlete knows it's not just the skills you have; it's the state that you arrive in on the night. Whether you are there, present, competitive, driven. And let me tell you, I wasn't. Right? I would get into fight day just wanting for it to be over so I could eat my post-fight meal and just kind of relax and not have distress. Like I was in a bad state mentally. Because when you're like suffering from low testosterone, you don't want to put effort into things. Effort feels like a drag. It feels like, oh, I've got to do this. Everything feels obligatory rather than passionate. And that's like, a very good way to stay unproductive, to never accomplish anything big in your life. But I eventually became this version of myself where I am confident, I'm happy, and I'm obviously helping hundreds of men around the world. And for me, muscle gain is effortless. I have constant high energy. I'm focused. My career has taken off. I'm obviously a business owner running a full-time fitness coaching business. A year ago, I was driving around, in delivery vans, trying to make ends meet, and I was in a totally different place, right? And everything's just on an upward trajectory since fixing my testosterone, ironically. So you may have thought, is your testosterone low? Right, you may have, all the symptoms that I've just listed, you may have been struggling yourself with, right? And I'm sure a lot of you have. That's why you're on this stream. I don't think any of you would want to dedicate hours of your Saturday, your precious Saturday evening, if you weren't suffering from some of these issues, right? And they're serious issues. So it's good that you're here. It's good that you're actually trying to do something about it. And so like some of the things you might be thinking, right, is your testosterone low? Why do you feel unconfident all the time? Is that just your personality? Right? Why is fat loss slow? I've had clients who come onto my program and they are like, oh, like beforehand, I tried everything. My fat just never seems to shift. And within a couple of weeks of working with me, it's like, well, now we see what the problem was, right? It all comes down to hormones and your approach. Same with gaining size. I see a lot of hard gainers saying they're eating 7,000 calories a day and nothing's working, right? You don't need to eat that much. You can eat 4,000 calories a day. You can eat in a slight surplus of like 500, right? And gain serious size if your hormones are dialed in. Having a fast metabolism doesn't mean you're going to stay skinny. You need to have high testosterone so your body uses those nutrients to gain muscle rather than, wasting away. And then, especially like for a lot of you after 30, you might have felt good in your 20s because some people are genetically gifted. Some people will have high testosterone and do less. They won't have to live the lifestyle as much and they can have high testosterone when they're young. It doesn't typically last after 30. And some of you might have been that type of person when in your 20s, you got away with a lot. You never had to think of this because you felt good in your 20s. You didn't even have to try so hard. And now, after 30, it's all gone downhill. Maybe you got married, maybe you got kids, maybe you work a lot. And the whole thing just feels like it's not, nothing's the same, right? You're not the same man that you were. And is that normal? Well, it's normal because most men suffer from it now, but it shouldn't be the case. as a man, you should actually, like, your prime years are your 30s. Right? I'll go into this later. I've got a few case studies, examples of this. But yeah, your prime years are actually after 30. As a man, you're meant to get better with age. And when you do things right, you literally age like wine. Right? You're not meant to age like milk in a sauna. So does your physique matter? Yes, it does. Believe it or not, I see a lot of you say you don't care about your physique. You just want to be healthy. Well, I hate to break it to you. Your physique is a reflection of your health. Right? Too much body fat is a marker of inflammation. It is a cause of high estrogen to testosterone, right, because of aromatase. But mostly it is the inflammation. Your fat cells store polyunsaturated fats and stuff that comes from bad food, right, which doesn't leave your system. This is why I'm so anti-seed oil, processed food, processed ingredients, because they stay in your system. It's why sugar isn't as bad as people say it is as well. We'll go into that later. And when you are carrying lots of body fat, that is more inflammation within your body. And the only thing that's stopping you losing that body fat is you, right? Being a bit more tactful with what you eat, a bit more focused on your kind of your diet and everything else. That's the only reason that's stopping you, right? It's the comfort zone, basically. And then you might be wondering, do you need TRT? Do you need peptides? No. Right, there are men. I literally spoke to a guy in my DMs the other day. He's 57 years old, and he sent me his blood work. And his blood markers, right, was 900, right, over 900 nanograms per deciliter at 57 years old. Right, some South African guy. How crazy is that? He even dropped his blood pressure. Now, I'm not a blood pressure person, but you know, like I don't look into that too much. But that's insane. And he's 57 years of age. He doesn't use TRT. He doesn't use anything. Does it all naturally. And again, I will have real life case studies of people that have done this at a higher age. Peptides, you just don't need them, right? They're not as dangerous as TRT, but I wouldn't fuck around with them because you just don't know, right? You don't know for sure. And why would you need to do it when you can do it naturally, right? If you do it naturally, you will see why peptides are actually unappealing. And naturally, right, the most common thing that I hear, which some of you are definitely thinking, is you don't like taking your shirt off, you don't like wearing clothing that's tight-fitting, right, that actually shows your physique, because it's an insecurity. When you don't like the way you look, you're naturally not going to want to take your shirt off, you're not going to want to wear clothing that reveals who you truly are. And you should ask yourself, as a man, is that what you want to have as a standard for yourself? To have to hide the way you look? To not just be proud in the way you look, right? And there's nothing wrong with holding yourself to that standard. That's not body dysmorphia. That's understanding what you should be doing for yourself, okay? So, I realised that this all came down to testosterone, right? It was roughly after a couple of MMA fights at the start of that journey that I really started to kind of put a lot of things together and realise everything pointed in the same direction, which was testosterone. Right, and every problem as a man that I've listed in the previous slide can be solved by fixing your testosterone naturally, and a lot of it goes hand in hand. Physique gets better, testosterone gets better, or often testosterone better, physique better. And it doesn't have to be like that, right? It's some of you have lived your whole life like this. Some of you have maybe experienced what it's like to be high testosterone, to feel good, to enjoy how you feel in yourself, and you've lost it. But it doesn't have to be like that. And you don't have to splash out hundreds and thousands for the rest of your life as a lifetime budget for TRT. Because that's what will happen. If you don't do it naturally, you will have to spend hundreds a month on TRT. Or not, and just suffer, right? But you will have to spend hundreds a month on TRT and blood work for the rest of your life. And your lifetime budget at the end of that will be hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds. Right, so just bear that in mind. That's the alternative if you don't get it fixed. But that's why we're here, because there is a natural way of doing this. So where did I learn this, right? Who did I actually take my inspiration from? I have so many guys ask me this in the DMs. They say, well, like, what got you into this? And obviously, for some of you, I don't always respond directly because I have to respond to hundreds of people every day, right? So don't take it personally if I don't seem that chatty in the DM sometimes. It's just because I've got a lot of people to talk to, right? And I want to help the people and prioritise the people that are trying to help themselves. So I'll answer that question, right? It all started with a guy called Eddie Abu, and I am sure every single one of you knows who Eddie Abu is, right? And for those of you who don't, it's this black guy right here, right? He's 60 years old. He used to be a psychiatric nurse, used to be a bodybuilder, took a bunch of steroids. He went full carnivore and he's fixed a bunch of his health issues, healed his knees, lost a bunch of weight, he's less inflamed, he doesn't have brain fog. He's basically like the main spokesperson for the carnivore diet. He used to be Liver King, and then we all found out he took steroids and lied about it. Surprise, surprise. We all knew he was. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But there was a few others along the way. So Paul Saladino, some of you might have heard of him. We will talk about him later. He's similar to Eddie Abu, but he's not. He's more whole food, animal based rather than strictly like carnivore, right? And he's American. And Andrew Huberman doesn't really do the animal-based diet fully, but he speaks a lot about testosterone and supplements, and that's when I first learned about supplements like Tonga Ali, Turkesterone and other things like that. And I'll cover a few of those metrics later. But they all spoke about different methods of what I now have as ancestor maxing, which I pieced together. But at the time, I didn't. Right, at the time, I tried to go full carnivore. I tried bits of each. But I'm now at the stage where I've pieced them together and really kind of creating my method. So, what did this lifestyle do for our ancestors that we don't have now? Right? I mean, you might have seen this picture circulating on the internet of the whole like hunter-gatherer skull. So basically, our ancestors' heads compared to the modern male. Like, that's a real photo. Look at the difference. Like, look at the size difference and the width of the palate and everything. When you have higher testosterone, guess what happens? Your facial structure actually changes, right? And you can do that to an extent naturally. Like, don't get me wrong, if you're going from 500 nanograms to 900, which is where you should be, or whatever your natural ceiling is, you're not going to look drastically different, but you will look a bit different, and your bone structure will change slightly through growth hormones. But that's why when you see guys who take steroids, their face looks ridiculously different. Often their face gets wider, a bit puffier, a bit like more defined in certain areas. But these were our ancestors, and they didn't have steroids. Look at the difference of that skull versus now. Right, and that just shows the immense difference of how testosterone has changed. But it's not just the skull, right? You don't get high testosterone because you want a thicker head, right? You get high testosterone because you want to be fitter, leaner, you want to feel good, right? You want to function well. And when you look at our ancestors, erectile dysfunction wasn't a problem. People didn't really have sexual issues, right? Like, the man was typically more respected in relationships. Why? Some, progressive feminist type men will say, oh, it's because they were controlling the household income. It's bullshit. Men were men. Yes, they provided. Society was different. Men could provide back then on a single income and feed a whole family, right? But most importantly, they were men. The wives respected them, and when you have higher testosterone, you behave like a man should. And guess what that does to your sex life, what it does to your relationship quality overall, and also to the way your kids see you. It impacts every single aspect of that. It's not just, I have higher testosterone, now I can get an erection, like, problem solved. It doesn't do that. That's why people who take Viagra don't fix all their relationship problems when their sex life is lacking, because it's not just the physiology and the physical aspect that's holding them back. It's the emotional aspect. It's the way they behave, the way they show up as a man. And guess what? That's all influenced by testosterone. So our ancestors were basically us, but better in pretty much every single category. So it's safe to say it did a lot for our ancestors that we are, missing out on in modern times. And what's funny is that our ancestors didn't track anything. They weren't going to the doctors, getting their cholesterol levels checked and all their blood markers checked and taking a million, forms of medication. They were smoking cigarettes, they drank. But guess what? They ate better food. They didn't have sun cream. They didn't have all the harmful chemicals everywhere. And as a result, they were healthier. Cancer rates have gone up. Heart disease rates have gone up. Everything's gone up since the days of our ancestors. And by ancestors, I do mean, like, I'm 23, my grandfather's and grandmother's generation. My nan is 97 years old. Her generation was very healthy. And unfortunately, they lived through the time where health changes became worse in food and stuff. And that's why a lot of older people are in hospitals with health issues. I've seen people argue and say, if the older generation was so healthy, why are there so many old people in the hospital? Because they obviously changed with the new lifestyle. But if you look at the hospitals in the 1940s and the old people of that era, they wouldn't have had as many health issues. So it all adds up, right? Our ancestors were better in almost every sense, and they didn't try as hard. So what did they actually eat that was different to us? Now, basically, it was a lot more animal produce. If you look online, you will see statistics that say, oh, meat consumption has risen. But they don't say what type of meat. And, there's a reason for that, because obviously they try and be as ambiguous as possible with statistics to support their narrative. But essentially, the meat that's more eaten now, processed meat, and chicken, mainly. A fuckload of chicken, in fact. Back in the day, they ate more salmon, they ate more red meat, mainly, right? And red meat was a huge thing. They were mostly animal-based. Dairy was a big part of diets. Milk, right? And grains and tubers were part of a diet as well, although grains were kind of up and down. It depended on farming seasons. Potatoes were very common. It was very much the animal-based diet, and it's like, as a result, it made a huge difference. So where did we go wrong compared to this? Now, there's a great example which I love to use. I don't know if you guys, I did actually make a video about this the other day on Instagram, and some of you may have heard of him. But it's this guy here, Brian Johnson, right? I don't actually know a lot about him. I don't really know who he is, other than the fact that he's labelled as the healthiest man in the world. But he looks terrible, right? I don't know about you. Obviously, this picture here of him is a little bit exaggerated. They found a picture of him where he's had some sort of facial, I don't know, he's got the mumps or something like that, something that's caused his face to swell up. But overall, he does not look healthy, right? The guy actually looks like a corpse. And ironically, he's recently been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease of the gut. What does that tell you? At 48 years old, right? Whereas you compare him to some random guy in Italy who's probably going to live till he's 100, who's got great skin, who eats a lot of meat, who came from that generation where they smoked a lot but they just ate whole food. And he's 10 times healthier, doesn't track his health, doesn't even know what a doctor is, probably doesn't even go to the gym, right? Which is crazy. And I'm not advocating for not going to the gym, by the way. I'm just proving the point that the gym is so irrelevant when it comes to your overall health. And that's why, linking back to what I said at the start of this masterclass, you go to a gym, there are so many guys there who are just so unhealthy, who are still fat, who are inflamed, puffy. You guys will laugh at something. If you go on my Instagram, there's this guy called Jake something, PT, I don't know, he leaves a load of hate comments on my page. And the guy is in good shape, he's shredded. But if you look at his face, he looks inflamed. He looks a bit like Brian Johnson in this photo here. Right, his face looks puffy, he looks unhealthy. And it's because you can almost sense the lack of testosterone and the inflammation and everything by looking at him. Even though he's in shape, he looks really unhealthy. And I would love to see his blood work, because I would not be surprised if it confirms everything I'm saying. So, guys like this, Brian Johnson, hyper tracking their health, super obsessed with being healthy, and he eats a highly modified plant-based diet, takes mushrooms, does all this weird shit, has 1,000 different types of supplements, and ends up with a gut issue. Because it's not what your body wants, right? And I'm sure his testosterone isn't optimal either. So let's look at some real-world examples of people that live this lifestyle now. My favourite one, and I'm sure you all know who this guy is Erling Haaland. Right? Regardless of what you think about football, right, this guy is an incredible athlete, right? And not just an incredible athlete, he is a specimen. This guy's 6'5", right? He's like a modern Viking. He is literally like a specimen of being athletic. And guess what he drinks and eats? Raw milk, organs, lots of red meat. He says he loves the fatty cuts of meat. I've seen his day in my life, and this guy is based. He is living the high testosterone lifestyle, and I know as far as I know, he's a natural athlete. And look at his performance. There's a reason why he's so good. Now I know people can say, oh, but there's other football players that don't eat the same lifestyle, eat the same food and stuff as him, and they're also good. Obviously, there's the football aspect that plays into it, but look at him in the physical sense, right? And he's obsessed with the lifestyle for a reason, because once you start you see the benefits. I've never known anyone who starts this lifestyle who then turns around later and says, oh yeah, not for me. It actually doesn't happen. The only people criticising it are people that aren't doing it, because it's impossible to do it and then turn back, because you see what it does for you. And people like Erling Haaland are a fantastic example. So back to what I said earlier about a man's prime being not until your 30s, right? When I mentioned Paul Saladino, for those who don't know him, it's this guy here. You've probably seen his videos pop up. That's him at like 40-something years old. Like, you know, not to glaze, but he looks flipping good for his age. No TRT. He even leaked his blood work, and he was like over 800 nanograms of testosterone at 48 years old, which is very impressive. But then you look at actors like Daniel Craig and Brad Pitt. I absolutely love this example, and I've rinsed it in my Instagram so many times. I hope people don't think I'm gay because I keep bringing it up, but I've said it so many times, right? Like, Daniel Craig and Brad Pitt at 38 years old, or what was it, 40? It was either 38 or 40. You know, Daniel Craig did Casino Royale, Brad Pitt did Troy, and they look amazing for their age. In fact, they actually look better than what they did when they were younger. And they don't take TRT. You look at their diets, and they actually live a very good, strong, healthy life. They probably have very good testosterone levels. And it's proof that it's more than possible to age like fine wine as a man and be well over 30 and be extremely healthy and extremely youthful, because testosterone literally keeps you young. Right, that's why a lot of guys do take TRT. You know, you look at, what's his name, Wayne Lineker. I don't know how old that guy is. Like, I swear he's like 50s, maybe even 60. I'm not saying you want to be like him, right? He's obviously pumped for the steroids, you know, turkey teeth, everything, but he looks young, and he has that youthful thing about him because of testosterone. He's just taking it artificially, but guess what? You can do it naturally, right? And guys like this are a perfect example. Like, your age should not be holding you back, right? And it's also not too late. You didn't have to do everything perfect in your 20s to do it later in life, right? Guys like Paul Saladino weren't perfect in their 20s. They discovered it later in life, and you will be so surprised how quick your body will default back to what it's supposed to be when you start eating the right stuff. You know, you could eat shit for 30 years and undo that damage within a year. How crazy is that? Like, within a year, you could just undo it all of just living a new lifestyle. You will learn to love new foods. You will learn to have better food in your body. Now, we are going to talk about a guy called Ray P, and this is going to come into really, like, it's going to be very important later on this presentation. But this is where things got interesting about the method, and when I kind of finalised what my Ancestor Maxing method was. And I really combined all those elements to max out testosterone, metabolism, skin health, mental function, everything, right? Because there's problems with some of those individual diets, like carnivore, keto, dare I say vegan. And we will go into his diet later, but I want you to remember this guy, right? Ray P. Some of you probably know who he is. You know, and the biggest thing about him is his view on sugar, glucose, fructose, and how that impacts your thyroid and metabolism. And that has a big part to play in testosterone, which I will explain. So how did I start introducing these into my life? Well, I started off like a lot of you, who might even be feeling this now in this video. You're a bit maybe overwhelmed, right? You're a bit overwhelmed, right? There's a lot of information out there. It's like, do I run? Do I walk? Do I eat bread? Do I not? Do I eat grains? Like, what do I do? And that is totally understandable, right? There's so much information out there, and that's why information actually isn't always the reason why you're not seeing results, but we'll get into that later. And I was not knowing where to start. As far as I was concerned, in my real fitness journey, health journey, I was at the start line, right? Even though, like, this is me before one of my fights, after a weight cut, you might think, oh, I don't look too bad there. Body fat was kind of low, but I was still very skinny fat. Like, I'm kind of flexing there. The lighting's actually not bad. My physique wasn't good, and I did not feel good. Right? I just didn't feel good. I also had constant stomach issues, indigestion, bloating. You know, like, I had constant reflux. It would come up in my training. I'd be training, and I'd just have this horrible burning sensation. And even in my fights, like, it was horrible, because my stomach was just not digesting the food properly because I was eating such bad stuff. But I knew something had to change, and, you know, I'd sort of experimented with elements of it. But this is when I realised that everything pointed towards the same direction, which was the diet, right? Everything I wanted came from what I was eating. I tried everything. I tried more training. I tried all sorts of stuff. I even tried little things in the diet, but nothing sophisticated. I actually went through a phase of eating raw onions at one point, and I learned that I can't do that because when I eat raw onions, I burn my mouth due to the acidity of it. Although raw onions do boost your testosterone quite a lot, like acutely, but I wouldn't recommend eating them. It makes you stink, and if you have a sensitive mouth, you will give yourself mouth ulcers. So don't do that. Right. So this is what I changed first. First thing I did was try the carnivore diet because of guys like Eddie Abu. And I tried it on 3 separate occasions. Did it for 2 weeks, stopped. Did it for about, I think, another 2 weeks. And then the third time I tried it for like a whole month. Did I feel good? Yes. I had mental clarity, right? My energy was fairly stable throughout the day. Did I lose weight? Yes, as well. Like, I would put on weight between fights. I stayed relatively slim throughout this whole thing. The problems were, I lost quite a lot of muscle mass. I started to feel jittery and anxious, especially after the third one, when I did it for a month. Because I did go full carnivore with it. Started to get a bit like just on edge. Like I could never truly relax. And some people would say, oh, it's because you got loads of energy. It wasn't. It was due to elevated cortisol levels, which is what happens when you cut out carbs completely. And that's why I don't advocate for it and why it's not good for testosterone. I didn't actually do a blood test when I did carnivore, but I can guarantee you I was in the lower end, right? And also I didn't enjoy it. Like, I got to a point where just eating meat all the time did become a bit boring. And I'm not one of them people saying like your diet has to be hyper palatable, because I am eating a whole food diet 24/7 now. But carbs and you know the combinations that you throw away when you go full carnivore is quite significant in my opinion. I realised I should have had this slide open through saying that. But anyway, you know, and that picture there is me when I was eating the carnivore diet, you know, for breakfast, right? That was breakfast, although breakfast wasn't until about 12 p.m, so you could say it's not even breakfast. I literally had like 2 big chunks of lamb, I think I had steak as well. I ate it all, and yeah, like I felt good, but overall, like it wasn't sustainable, and there were so many other problems, right? Even problems with sex drive and everything else. And my physique really became quite wiry, as you can see here, because I was also doing a lot of training, lots of cardio, lots of output, lots of MMA, and a couple of lifting sessions a week. That was actually after the gym. That's with a pump in that photo, and I still look like a string, like a string bean. And you know, that was what the carnivore was doing, right? And you see a lot of guys have that with carnivore. Some guys are actually the opposite. Some guys stay fat on a carnivore diet. I actually had a client, Daniel, who was like that. He was on carnivore before me, and he just couldn't lose the fat because it was also about the quantity of the food that you're eating and the hormones. So yeah, that combined with the amount of training I was doing led me to be in this position. And at that point, I'd crossed off the carnivore diet from my list. So it was at this point I realised something was missing from my diet. I had to change something. I couldn't just keep on eating meat, keep on looking like a string bean. I couldn't go back to eating processed food because I felt like crap. I was constantly having indigestion. You know, I was fat, skinny fat, felt like shit. And I also wasn't following any structure. I had no clarity on what I was doing. I was just kind of like trying things and saying, oh, I'll eat carnivore. Oh, I'll do this. And nothing ever really, you know, transformed that, you know, my situation. I needed structure, right? That was the biggest thing. So what finalised this? I had my 5th and final fight. Right? I love this photo from it. Well, literally, I remember the start of the fight, I could not wait to get my hands on this guy. Like, he was a nice guy, shook my hand behind stage, you know, was very respectful. But when we did the walkout, he got to the cage first. So he walked out first, and his friends were all like a bunch of pricks. Like, they were all like booing and stuff, and he was like trying to stare me down like as I walked in the cage. I remember, like, Google this fight on YouTube, Angus Jobson versus Stefan Saulik. And I was literally I just wanted to get at him. And the first, like, as soon as the bell went, me and him just came at each other. We both threw the same punch. And I definitely clipped him harder. And then, so I'm going on a tangent here. He ended up taking me down. Then I took him down. I was on top of him for most of the round. And then got caught in a triangle choke. For those of you who don't know MMA or jiu-jitsu, it's a choke where you, basically the guy has his legs wrapped around and your arms trapped here and it suffocates you, right? And he was also punching me at the same time, so the referee waved it off. It was a bummer of a fight. But I didn't feel good, right? Even going into that fight, as much as I had all this pumped up energy from the adrenaline, I still didn't feel good. Like, even at one point during the fight, when I'd taken him down, I was on top of him, I remember having this feeling of like, ugh. Like, I feel like I've got no energy. I'm like, I'm literally in a fight right now. Like, my adrenaline's going. I should be locked in, present, like, with competitive drive. And I didn't have that. Because of that lack of testosterone, I just didn't have it. Yeah, and even before that fight, like, I was kind of half... That was one of the fights where I actually felt better. But I still didn't feel good. You know, I was still thinking about, I just want it to be over. I just want it to kind of, you know, I want to be comfortable. So at this point, enough was enough. And this was when I really started to go deep into the testosterone diet, right? And I realised everything at this point was testosterone. I'd been thinking about it a long time. It was around this time where I started watching a lot of, like, Tate. So Andrew Tate started popping up, you know, in the scene of social media, and we all know what that guy talks about, and one of the things he does say a lot is testosterone. I kept on hearing it, and then I saw like other creators talking about it, and I thought, oh, there must be something about that testosterone thing, and you know, and ultimately that's what really woke me up to it. Yeah, and here I am, like a whole year later, well, it's a bit over a year, so here I am, over a year later, and like I'm in such a different position. I go to the gym 3 times a week. Yeah, I tan so easy. I lose fat so easy. I gain muscle like so easy. I literally have been doing a slow cut for the past 8 weeks or so, and I've gone from about 15% body fat down to about 11-12%, to the point where my abs are visible, and I've gained muscle. I've gained strength during that thing. Like, who does that? I'm not trying to blow my own trumpet, but when you're natural, who gains strength while losing fat? It's rare, right? Because most people, they're either cutting or bulking. They're not doing a full body recon like I do. And now that I'm actually eating at maintenance for a bit, it's been a couple of days and I'm already like lifting, you know, I'm adding like 10 kilos onto some of the weights that I was doing literally a week ago at the end of the cut. Already. You know, like, this is the power of testosterone. Like, if you're losing muscle mass, your hormones are fried. If your body's not burning fat and you're not seeing weekly visible change, your hormones are probably fried. And you might be eating steak and eggs a few times a week. You might be doing stuff a few times a week that you think is right, like I was. But something's missing. You're not following a structure. There is something seriously missing there, and that is what ultimately, you know, like I realised and I discovered during this time. And, you know, for the next 45 minutes or so, let's check the time, it's 10 to 7. I'm going to show you guys how you can actually do this, right? And this is mainly going to be about the diet. So the training aspect is important, but it's not that important, right? It's, you know, I could literally just say to you, do low volume 3 times a week. You're probably going to see results. This is about your testosterone. So let's get into this. Talking is thirsty work, I tell you. Just looking at the comments. Hope you guys are enjoying this so far as well. I really appreciate you all turning up. And, you know, it's good that you're here, right? You're all trying to learn something. So anyway, yeah, let's get into this part. Yeah, this is where all the source is, by the way. You may have been watching this thinking, fucking hell, when's this guy going to get into like actually telling us how to boost testosterone? Well, here you go, you impatient fucks. We're here. So, you know, let's get into it. How exactly does naturally boosting your testosterone work, right? So everything you've been taught about testosterone, about everything, right, in terms of diet and stuff, is a lie. All the mainstream agendas is wrong. And I used to think it was just like the, you know, like the obvious stuff. Like when they say, oh, you should eat loads of vegetables and grains. We all, I think most people at this point are aware that's bullshit. Or like, start your day with granola. Most of us know that's bullshit. Some of you don't, and you're not stupid for thinking that, right? You could just be at a different stage in your journey of discovering health and testosterone and fitness. Nothing wrong with that. But it's everything. It's way more. It's the type of fat they tell you to eat. It's like even stuff about sugar. The fact that they demonise sugar. I used to think, oh, well, at least they're telling the truth about sugar. Sugar's bad, right? No. Like, not as bad as people think it is anyway. It can be really beneficial, and you actually need it for high testosterone, which I will explain. So everything you've been taught is a lie, and you guys have got to like come into this with a very open mind. Even I know some of you, as much as like you are very open-minded and you're very like, you know, conspiracy theories. Like, if you believe in conspiracy theories, you're probably not thick. But believe it or not, some guys I see on my page, I've literally had a guy. He keeps commenting on my videos. He's a conspiracy theorist, believes in all the things, but he keeps on telling me how eggs are bad for you because a doctor told him they're bad. And I'm thinking, like, what? Like, you believe in all the conspiracy stuff, but you believe your doctor about eggs being bad for you. Like, that's mind blowing. So, you know, come into it with an open mind. You know, I always wanted to be in shape. I always cared about this, and I, like most of you, have grown up eating the wrong stuff, right? And my mum, bless her, like, she raised me. My mum and dad split up when I was very young, so it was mostly my mum doing my lunches, like everything as a kid. And yeah, she would give me the standard stuff. It wasn't crap, like I wasn't eating shit, but I would start my day with cereal. I would have like bread. I would have cereal bars in my lunch. But she did, like, my mum actually made quite a good effort. I remember there was a period in school where I was eating mackerel sandwiches, which, believe me, at the time I fucking hated. Now I eat mackerel all the time. Like, it's my go-to source of fatty fish. But yeah, I used to eat it in a sandwich, and like, yeah, as a kid I didn't like it. But fair play to my mum for putting that onto me, and I'm sure that actually helped me develop in a lot of ways. I also had a lot of like whole foods, fruit and stuff. I even had these things called naked bars, which you will see later on aren't actually ideal, but it's still better than eating shit, right? You know, chocolate and stuff like that. So yeah, and as a teenager and as a kid, I always hated the way I looked. I had these love handles on the side of me, and I was constantly looking in the mirror, like at these big, like just the way they came out on my back. I hated them. Like I would obsess about my shape, which was narrow shoulders, narrow chest, wide midsection, and wide love handles. I felt like I looked awful, and I probably did. Right, I always hated it, so I knew something was wrong, yeah, all along. And it's funny, because when I did eventually get into shape, this was like shortly after my 5th fight, where I'd started the testosterone journey. This is when I got my first blood test done. And I was lean, you know, I started to get leaner. I started putting a bit more muscle after the carnivore diet, but my testosterone was low. You know, this was my first ever blood test. I was 14.4. And after a couple of months of that, I did it again, and I was at 26.7. Which was, and it was a big difference. It was noticeable, very noticeable. And even then, I was taking supplements. Tonga Ali. I didn't take creatine back then. Creatine is really important, by the way. If you guys want to take a supplement, well, in fact, no. Like, you should be taking creatine, and you should be taking 10 grams a day. And even better, creatine paired with HMB. Remember this, right? And write this down, because it's so crucial, not just for muscle mass. It's crucial for your metabolism, for everything. Right, everything about your body. So yeah, even when getting into shape, I had low testosterone. It's proof that you can be in shape and have low T. So again, I knew something was missing, and there was something that, you know, that had to be changed. And the blood tests, yeah, like it wasn't like a realization moment. I kind of knew I was low, and the blood test just kind of confirmed what I was already noticing. So here are some of the symptoms to look for about low testosterone to really know, right? Let's say you don't want to get a blood test, or you just haven't got around to it. A blood test can help, but also bear in mind, blood tests can vary per day as well. You might do a blood test at the wrong time in the day, or maybe after a previous day of heavy training or fasting, and that can actually influence it, like a significant amount. So don't just rely on the blood tests. Rely on how you feel consistently overall, right? Because genuinely, low testosterone will have you living life at 10-20% of what it could be. And you might not notice because it's always been there. So the main thing is fat that doesn't go, right? I've said this like 5 times, and the reason why is because it is the like biggest point. If you are storing fat around the midsection, around your man tits, love handles, hips, and it's not moving, you feel like you're eating less, you feel like sometimes you're hungry, you feel like you train and it doesn't go, then you're showing real clear signs of lower testosterone levels. Right, if you lift for months and your body doesn't really change, maybe your weight changes, you go up or down in weight, but your physique doesn't really change. Same thing, right? That's why, like that slide earlier, where my physique had changed, when I had gained muscle while losing fat. That is what testosterone does. You know, I have a friend who takes testosterone, right, steroids. Which you think is crazy, right? Everything I promote, and I'm friends with people like that. Like, people can do what they want, right? And don't get me wrong, the guy looks fucking great. Yeah, he lifts heavy shit. He's done a cut like 3 times faster than I have. He's kept all his muscle mass. He takes peptides for his skin. He hits the tanning beds. He looks like a literal god. So I see why he does it. But the testosterone is the reason why he was able to do that cut and keep all his muscle mass and stuff. And good news is you can do it naturally. You don't have to go to that extreme. So, but other things like low sex drive, like low sex drive is a weird one. It comes in different ways. It doesn't, like, having a low sex drive doesn't mean you're not always horny, and having a high sex drive doesn't mean you're always horny. Yeah, sometimes being always horny is actually a bad thing. I don't always want to be thinking about having sex, right? It gets in the way. But it's about your ability to just switch it on. Or, like, also your drive to go out and pursue women. Some of you may have been single for a while. Some of you may be in a relationship that's not doing well. Right? This might be an uncomfortable thing to think about, but you need to think about it. You might be in a situation where you're not performing as a man because of low sex drive. It's not about horniness. It's about your drive to go out and find, in biological terms, a mate. Someone who wants to be with you, and you actually want to put in the effort to speaking to them, to going through the process, and you look forward to that process. That is sex drive, right? It's not just about your ability to get it up. Although that obviously comes into play as well. I want to clear up something about morning wood, right? Some guys think that morning wood is like the ultimate kind of check engine light thing. If you're not getting morning wood, everything's terrible, or if you are getting it, everything's fine. It's really not that simple. Morning wood, and we'll get into this later when I talk about sleep cycles, is related heavily to your sleep cycles. If you wake up at the wrong time during your sleep cycle, you might not get morning wood, and it doesn't mean you've got low testosterone necessarily. And some of you might wake up with morning wood by chance because of your sleep cycle, and you might actually still have low testosterone. So it's a weird internet thing of people just saying, oh yeah, if you get morning wood, you're fine, or if you don't have morning wood, you're basically a woman. You know, like, it's highly exaggerated. A big thing though is constant irritability. Do you find yourself snapping at your kids, at your wife, at yourself, getting angry, like losing your rag over silly shit? Like, when I had low testosterone, I was the biggest man child ever. Yeah, I would literally get angry if I like went into the fridge and there wasn't something that I wanted to eat. I would want to like throw stuff across the room in a temper, and I'd get in a temper in traffic, and I'd get angry with people that I love, and then I feel guilty afterwards, and I was very emotionally reactive. That is actually low testosterone. People think high testosterone, again, is anger and aggression. It's not. It's low testosterone which does that. And think about how that is with your kids and stuff, and your wife. And then you've got food cravings. So, you know, food cravings, like, it is actually linked to testosterone, because testosterone links to your drive, your ability to stick through discipline and stuff, and food cravings can link to that. You know, because testosterone is also connected to your insulin sensitivity. Low insulin sensitivity will cause more... worse insulin sensitivity will cause more food cravings. Some of you probably read all this, but yeah, so midday crashes, recurring need to eat goy slop, like, oh, I just really need to eat processed food for no reason, and giving into that temptation. Losing motivation easily, dragging yourself out of bed in the morning, and the thought of any sort of effort feels negative. It doesn't feel like I want to go and achieve stuff. It's like, oh, you know, I've got to do it. I've got to get up in the morning. I've got to go to work. You don't feel excited to push your life forward and go in a good direction. These are all signs of low testosterone. So naturally, high testosterone is the complete opposite. You start the day excited. I literally wake up, like, my alarm goes off if I set an alarm. Some days I don't, because my circadian rhythm is very correct. And I just wake up and I'm like, I'm ready to go. I feel so good. I wake up and get out, if there's morning sunlight, which there is in the summer, I get out, I smile, like I feel good. I'll say a prayer in the morning as well. Like I just feel so upbeat, right? And everything feels like it's got a purpose to it. You know, when you do stuff, you have the drive to do stuff. You know, that's like even doing this presentation, I feel really driven to do this. I could talk for 5 hours if I need to. Think about how that translates to your business and your work and stuff as well, if you're trying to achieve big things in life. Yeah, and you see the reward in the driving stuff. And then obviously, fitness-wise, like your muscle gain and fat loss seems to happen on accident. Like, I lift 3 times a week, which some people scoff at, and they think, wow, like 3 times a week, like that's nothing. And yeah, like you could say it is nothing. But I'm not complaining. I'm seeing great results, and I have more time. I don't want to be in the gym 6 days a week. Believe it or not, I used to be one of those people, like, the gym can be a bad addiction. If you need to constantly go to the gym to get dopamine and to get endorphins, something's wrong with your hormones. You should have those endorphins already through testosterone, through you being healthy and achieving stuff in your life. The gym, it should not be something that is like that vice. Believe it or not. I know people say, oh, but the gym's a healthy habit. It's healthier than eating shit food and everything else, but lifting weights doesn't do a lot for you. It helps grow muscle mass, right? But if you're eating in a surplus and you're fat, right, or your hormones are out of whack, you're not going to gain the muscle mass. You're just going to be breaking down your body constantly in a constant state of recovery. Like, it's not really doing a lot. It doesn't even burn that many calories. It doesn't actually improve your heart health or anything like that. It can improve joint health, but it's not like that big. Yeah, and I said this right because it's true. Your sex life does feel like something from a film. When you have high testosterone, like you just, you know, I apologise if there's any people that know me watching this, but you do. You behave and perform differently. And I've had times where I've had low testosterone, and you are very different in the way you show up to your relationship, and not just in that sense, but in every other sense too. You know, your life does start to feel like a film. You feel like the main character. And then naturally, athletic performance comes naturally to you. You will just do things athletically better, run better, sprint better, swim better. If you go to an MMA class, you will probably be hitting harder. You will just be doing more stuff because your body has that explosive kind of masculine power to it. And most importantly, you can stick to a plan and see a reason to do so. So why is low testosterone so dangerous? It's dangerous because it's bad. It's actually bad for your health, right? Worse insulin sensitivity, inflammation, bad like bone health, your immune system. It actually makes you unhealthy. It's not just a preference of I'd rather have high testosterone. Like you are an unhealthy man if you have low testosterone, unfortunately. So let's do a quick exercise, right? Just take 30 seconds. I want you guys to just close your eyes. I'm going to stop talking for a minute and just imagine how different your life would be if you had all of those benefits that I just explained. Right, so now that you've done that, you've probably thought a bit about how different your life would be, and if it doesn't look drastically different, either you're already there or you're lying, or you haven't got much imagination, right? Because it's truly life-changing, and I'm sure you guys can see that. So let's get into how you actually do this. So pillar 1, cholesterol and fats, right? Now, this is some people might think it's generic advice, but it's the way you structure it which matters. Cholesterol and saturated fats are the building blocks of testosterone. But it doesn't just mean eat more, right? Eat more and you'll magically have high testosterone. If you don't do the other things, then you won't. But this is the main foundation, hence why it's pillar 1. You can do all the other things. If you don't have this down, then you won't have high testosterone, right? And some of the best ways to get this dietary cholesterol into your system, like I would eat 8 eggs in the morning, right? Very filling breakfast, keeps me energized and full for a long time, makes cutting really easy, especially when I pair it with like 20 grams of raw cheese, 20 grams of 100% dark chocolate. I have 500 grams of beef mince or steak. I eat red meat in some form every day. and raw dairy. So I have raw cheese, raw butter. If I'm maintaining or bulking, I have raw milk. I have constantly got cholesterol in my diet. If I even have one day of eating less cholesterol, I feel it, right? Because my body is attuned. That's not a bad thing. It means my body recognises when there's something missing. So if I have a day where I just don't eat any forms of real dietary fat or cholesterol, I will feel it. If I just have a day of eating, like, I've had days where I've had chicken, turkey, and, you know, lean stuff, or even like 0% Greek yogurt, and I don't feel as good. Because like, my body is literally producing less. It comes down to your Leydig cells in your balls, right? There's a direct correlation there. People say, oh, but your body produces cholesterol. But it's also about how much is available, which then determines how much your body produces in terms of hormones. And I know I'm completely geared at men, but this more cholesterol for women will boost their estrogen balance. It doesn't just boost testosterone for everyone. So women will benefit from this too. Now, you need to bear in mind, right, some of you, again, might still be sceptical if you've got a doctor or anything like that, and the doctor's telling you, oh, you shouldn't be eating too many eggs, bad for your cholesterol, right? Doctors do not know what they're talking about when it comes to diet advice. I'm just putting it out there. And I'm not going to give this big fucking disclaimer of this is not medical advice. Doctors are killing more people nowadays than anyone else are. So I'm not afraid to tell you that what they say is bullshit. Most of the time it is bullshit, right? And here's the thing. Cholesterol studies are dumb. They are taken out of context. What they do is they say, oh, we've done a study on hundreds and thousands of people, and when cholesterol was higher, heart disease was higher. But what they're looking at is one variable, when the real variable is what's causing that cholesterol to become plaque, which is high stress, oxidative stress in the body, which comes from, guess what, seed oils, processed food, free radicals in the body, which comes from those bad foods. They're not doing these tests on people that are eating carnivore or eating whole foods. They're doing these tests on the average person who smokes, drinks, well, not smokes, but drinks, eats processed food, is highly stressed, has low testosterone, has all these other issues in their body, and they're saying, well, it must be the cholesterol. It's not the cholesterol. It's the thing that oxidizes the cholesterol. And LDL is good. LDL is not bad within itself, it's good. It just happens to be the thing that gets turned into plaque when there's oxidation. So what do you do? A smart person would remove the things that oxidize in your body, like the processed food, and keep the cholesterol. Because when you remove the cholesterol and try and work around it like that, guess what? You end up on statins. You end up on a low-fat, low-cholesterol diet with low testosterone. You end up taking medication which leads to other health issues. It's bad in every sense. Statistics are such bullshit. It's like they take them out of context, and if I told you guys 1/3 of driving accidents come from drink drivers, right? We all know drinking and driving is dangerous and is not what you should be doing. But if I was a purely statistic person, I would say, oh, looking at the statistics, 2/3 of driving accidents come from when you don't drink. Therefore, it's safer to drink and drive. You see how ridiculous that is? It's the same thing that they're doing when they give this medical advice. And all you have to do is open your eyes and see that, put two and two together and see that logic fail to realise how dumb it is. That's why health is wrong in every level, and that's why you cannot trust your doctor. So please, do not fear cholesterol. Have more cholesterol, eat more saturated fat, eat less of the processed bullshit. Now, when it comes to sleep, sleep is important, right? And we all hear people say, just sleep more for high testosterone, but it's not as simple as that, right? A lot of you might struggle to sleep, and it doesn't help when someone says you've got to sleep more when you've got to get up at 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning. What does matter is your quality of sleep. I would recommend setting an alarm to go to bed so you sleep at the same time consistently every day, right? There's probably a lot of things you stay up for that you don't need to stay up for, and if you were aware of the benefits of what having more sleep would do for you, you would do it. The only reason why you're not is because to you it doesn't feel like a thing. You think, oh, I've just got to sleep more because some guy on the internet said I have to. I guess it helps, but I've not seen it work. Do it, see it work, and then you will want to keep doing it, right? That's the logic there. But it's not just the actual amount of sleep you get. It's the sleep cycles. So you have 4 sleep cycles, right? Light sleep stage 1, light sleep stage 2, deep sleep, and REM sleep. Now, deep sleep is when your body does the most healing. It's when it does the most hormonal kind of restructure. And REM sleep is when you dream. And REM sleep is actually when you tend to get a boner, right? That sounds random, but it's when you wake up at the end of your REM sleep, that's when you have morning wood. So this is why people say having morning wood is healthy, because when you when you wake up at the sweet spot, which is like at the end of REM sleep, you are waking up after exactly the end of a sleep cycle. So your body is ready to wake up. This is how your ancestors would have woken up, at the end of a sleep cycle, naturally. And you know, typically you have 5 or 6 sleep cycles to be optimal. So what I would recommend is getting either 7.5 hours of sleep or 9 hours of sleep. Go to bed at 10:30, wake up at 6, right? Or sleep at 10:30 and wake up at 6. So maybe get into bed at 10:15, right? That's 7.5 hours. If you want more, push it to 9. I'm not saying you can't ever get in between. It's not going to destroy your health, but it's just not optimal. You're going to wake up with slightly more cortisol. You're probably not going to wake up with morning wood. You're not going to feel as fresh in the morning. So waking up at the end of a sleep cycle is going to do wonders for you. And another thing as well, when it comes to getting more deep sleep, this is why you can't just do this same routine but go to bed at 2 a.m. and wake up at 9 a.m. or whatever. You have to go to bed before midnight, because when you sleep later on into the cycle of the sun, right, you have less deep sleep. So you're naturally going to, even though you might have the same hours, you're not going to produce as much testosterone. And unfortunately, if you're working night shifts, there's not a lot you can do about that. The sleep aspect is something you'll just have to work around. You know, and doesn't mean you can't have high testosterone. It just means you're not going to be as predisposed to it. Now, the third and final pillar for the foundations is you need carbs and sugar, right? So you don't need it to live. I've said this on videos. You need carbs and sugar, and people go absolutely spastic about it, especially the carnivore people, because they think, oh, you don't need it. It's the only macro you don't need. Technically, you're right. You don't need it, but if you want to be optimal and have high testosterone, then you do need it, right? And I learned this when doing the carnivore diet. It's exactly what I was talking about earlier. Because carbs signal abundance to your body. Our ancestors would have ate carbs when available. And the silly logic is people say, well, we should copy exactly what our ancestors did and only eat carbs periodically because that's what they did. Whereas in reality, if your ancestors had more carbs, they would have ate carbs all year round, right? So you take advantage of that, given modern knowledge, and say, well, actually, that state of abundance is something you can maintain all year round. Do it. But just don't eat a ridiculous amount of carbs, right? And that's what we'll get into. Because carbs boost your testosterone. When you're signaling abundance to your body, you signal low cortisol. So everything upregulates. Thyroid, sex hormones, everything. Right? And that's why when you do carnivore for an extended period of time, you tend to get high cortisol. You get jittery, you get anxious, you get wiry. Your hormones don't function as well because your body is in a evolutionary state of scarcity. Carbs are not here, we have to rely on just meat. That is thousands of years of evolution. So guess how you trick that? You eat carbs, right? But natural carbs, not bullshit carbs. You're not eating fucking cereal or bread, modern bread, which is horrendous. You're eating fruit, you're eating tubers, right? Sweet potato, the best types of carbs, raw honey, raw milk. These are fantastic for you. And the most important thing that carbs do, and especially natural sugar, is boost your DHT. Now, some people take DHT blockers, which is the stupidest thing a man can do, right? DHT is not the only thing that causes baldness, right? Baldness is mainly down to oxidative stress as a whole, and genetics. So if you don't want to go bald, get a hair transplant. Don't take DHT blockers, which are going to cause you to feel like crap, cause you to have basically low testosterone, because DHT is the expression of testosterone. You've probably heard people talk about DHT. You can have high testosterone and low DHT, and you're going to feel like someone who has low testosterone. So you might, basic testosterone is relevant if DHT isn't congruent with it and doesn't support it. So what you need for DHT, carbs and natural sugar. Because your thyroid has an enzyme called 5A reductase, which converts that natural sugar into, it doesn't convert it directly into DHT, but it helps produce DHT through the thyroid. That's why I drink orange juice. That's why my clients have it. They have maple syrup. They have all this stuff because it helps upregulate that system. So cutting out carbs is not optimal for testosterone at all, right? It slows down your metabolism. It leaves you stressed. It leaves you wiry. And that's why a lot of people have brain fog. Like, you actually end up doing carnivore for too long, you get a bit more brain foggy, right? You start to perform worse. It's because of DHT. And a lot of blood tests don't pick it up. So that was the main foundation. Let's get into the deeper structure of testosterone, right? And this is where we talk about Ray P. If you guys remember from earlier, I mentioned this guy. So Ray P is what I call the guy who, like, he made the metabolism diet. And there's a lot about the ancestor maxing method, which is very close to what Ray Peat talks about. So his methods are combined with the ancestral diet, right? And it has helped every aspect. The ability to gain fat, lose muscle, eat more food in general. So let's explain that, right? So here are some diagrams showing Ray Peat's diet, right? And or not his own diet, but what he promotes. Now, we don't follow it directly, like exactly what he says. But he says this, right? Avoid polyunsaturated fats. Polyunsaturated fats are nuts, seed oils, fatty fish, basically unstable fats. The reason why you avoid them is because as humans, the science behind it is we are monogastric animals, same as chickens, pigs, and this is why I don't tend to eat much chicken and pig, because and pork, sorry, because what it means is being monogastric. When you eat fat, that fat becomes part of your cells. Cows, right, and other animals, when they eat fat, whether it's polyunsaturated fat or anything, it gets converted into saturated fat and goes through their body, and their body uses it totally differently to what we do. So if you eat a lot of polyunsaturated fats, which are unstable chemically, they've got a double bond, which means they break easy, they're like unstable, vulnerable to oxidation, which is, remember, what causes plaque buildup. You eat a lot of that, it becomes part of your fat. Your fat now contains lots of polyunsaturated, unstable fat. Your cells are made up of unstable fat, so the membrane is less stable. This is what causes skin damage. You can't tan in the sun very well. Your metabolism downregulates. Your thyroid downregulates. Your testosterone downregulates. Everything is worse because your cells are literally unstable. Right? If your cells, like, look it up on Google, say what are cells? It's the makeup of life. If they're unstable, everything downregulates and performs worse. And guess what? You also become more vulnerable to things like cancer as well. Right? Because imagine the cells are unstable, more vulnerable to mutation, everything else. Right? Some people say, oh, that's a bold claim. Well, look at the correlation. How much vegetable oils and polyunsaturated fat consumption has skyrocketed alongside cancer and everything else. Despite the fact they tell you, no, it's the sun, no, it's this, no, it's this. Well, the only thing that's gone up alongside cancer is that. Right? So, use your logic. But he says to avoid those things because they are the ultimate things, slowing down your metabolism and ruining your hormones. But the big thing that separates Ray P is he says to eat a lot of carbs, where a lot of people disagree, and he actually puts them at the foundation of the pyramid, which is where I even disagree. He says eat loads of fruit, right? Eat lots of fruit, then you have dairy, eggs, animal protein. He's a big fan of like shellfish, clams, oysters, and animal organs, right? And the vegetables you eat, which I agree with, is root vegetables. You don't eat cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, kale, that type of stuff that just inflames your gut. You eat root vegetables, carrots, sweet potatoes, onions, because it's when they grow underground, they literally behave differently in your body. They're more stable again, and your body can break them down a lot easier. So, yeah, this is all stuff that helps boost your testosterone and boost your metabolism. But the main thing he argues is that all the fructose and natural occurring sugars, they upregulate your thyroid, which means everything speeds up. So if you are regularly eating fruit, you are just speeding up your metabolism. And it is true, to an extent. And this is where I get into this. So for some of you who are carrying more than like 15% body fat, I wouldn't go into heavy amounts of sugar, fruit and stuff. Have it in your diet, but I would say in the mornings, don't have it. So stick to like what I do, which is 8 eggs in the morning, 20 grams of cheese. Don't load up on sugar. Lose the body fat and improve your insulin sensitivity. And as you get to a lower body fat, your body will naturally become more hormonally sensitive anyway. So then you will naturally need more sugar and carbs, and then you can incorporate it more. When I'm maintaining, I will eat plenty of sugar. I will probably have 2 apples in a day, 2 bananas. I will have raw honey. I will have maple syrup in my yogurt. I will have it in my coffee. I will eat ice cream every day. Natural whole ice cream. Every day I eat ice cream, right? Unheard of. You know, most diets will say that's suicide. Why? It's whole ingredients, saturated fats, egg, milk, double cream, right? Cane sugar, which is good for you. Right? Cane sugar is actually good. You know, so I would be careful with the fruit thing. Don't go crazy, especially if you're at a higher body fat. But, you know, make it up to be about 20% of your diet. And then when you get leaner, maybe 30%, 35%. Right? You can start doing that and it will help with your metabolism and everything else. Now, pillar 5. This is where a lot of guys go wrong with whole foods, and probably the most common issue I have with a lot of followers, because a lot of you guys are trying to implement this, but you're going wrong because, like, you're still making the wrong choices and you're not structuring things properly. Sorry. Yeah, so not all whole foods are good, right? I see guys screwing this up constantly. So the biggest thing is like the polyunsaturated fats. They'll eat too many nuts, legumes, beans. They'll put olive oil and stuff instead of using butter, and have fish all week long. Right, salmon 3 times a week, which I used to do. I'm guilty of, and you shouldn't do that. Right, it's not good. Can you guys bear with me 1 second? I've just got to go and get some water. I will literally be 1 minute. Just bear with me. Oh, sorry about that. You know what? It's getting 7:30. I'm going to get my blue light blockers. Right, so one thing I do is a bit later on in the summer, if it was winter, I would be wearing these probably even at like 4 o'clock, as soon as it goes dark. But when it gets into the evening, I like to put these on, because I'm actually using a ring light here to obviously give better lighting for you guys, and it's shining right in my face. So these blue light blockers, great for regulating your sleep schedule, and it's actually really important to sleeping better. So, where was I? I was probably talking about salmon and fish, but I used to eat like salmon 3 times a week. Yeah, big portions of salmon. And salmon's good. You should have it at least once a week, or mackerel. But what you've got to bear in mind is that it's unstable fats. It's polyunsaturated fats. And especially farmed salmon, right? Where you've got lots of like intramuscular fat in it, and that fat is containing more toxins. That's all going in your body. This stuff adds up, right? And those nuts, legumes, beans, Nuts, again, another form of polyunsaturated fats. But legumes, beans, they don't digest well in your stomach. It causes low-grade inflammation. Even if you don't feel like you get big symptoms of it, like you're getting like loads of bloating and gas, even like without that, it's still causing that low-grade inflammation, which impacts the way your body digests food, the way your body signals hunger signaling and hormones and everything. It interferes with a lot. So some of the most common mistakes I see, right? People eat tuna, like loads. They will have tuna every day or every other day. Guys, if you are doing this, you are accumulating so much mercury, which is a heavy metal, into your system. Because tuna is a predatory fish. You might remember from earlier in the call, I mentioned how we don't typically eat predators as humans because of accumulation of heavy metals and other issues. Well, basically how the food chain works, right, is the sun gives energy, plants receive energy, animal eats plants, carnivore or predator eats that animal. And that's where it should end, realistically. Because what happens throughout that process is an accumulation of all the minerals in the earth. Minerals go into the plant, depending on where it grows, right? Especially now with factories and stuff, those heavy metals go into the plant. The animal eats those heavy metals. The carnivore eats the animal. And that, like, the strength of those heavy metals gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So that's why, like, if you were to eat predators, like let's say you ate wolf, or you ate lion, or you ate any sort of main predator, it would taste disgusting for one, and you would be accumulating a huge amount of toxins and heavy metals into your body. You know, believe it or not, like some of the most poisonous animals to eat are predators. You can't eat a polar bear's liver; it will kill you. Right? You can't eat I don't think you can eat a shark's liver either. I think that will kill you. And certain shark is very poisonous to eat if you don't prepare it right. Tuna is a predatory fish, and it's sort of midway in the food chain. So tuna will eat like mackerel, and even mackerel is a predatory fish, but it's very low in the food chain, so it's not too bad. But tuna is a bit higher up. So tuna, once a week at most, right? Mercury accumulation interferes with hormones. It's really not good for you. It's like oxidative stress as well. It's, you know, can be linked to cancer. Don't eat too much tuna. Big other mistake is like any sort of nut butter. Nut butter is useless. Do not, like, just don't use it. And if you are going to use it, like, treat it as a cheat meal. Right? I literally treat nut butter as a cheat meal. Like, I have cheated on my diet by having nut butter in my Greek yogurt bowls because it really mixes nice and it does taste fucking good. But it's just pointless, right? If you're using it on sourdough bread, use real butter. You don't need nut butter. If you need protein, eat more eggs, have more steak, raw dairy. Why are you eating nut butter or nuts in general? The only nuts you should ever eat are Brazil nuts, right? And limit to 2 a day for the selenium content. 2 Brazil nuts a day is all of your selenium. And that is great for your thyroid. And Brazil nuts have less omega-6 fats. So you've got 2 types of fatty acids. You've got omega-6s and omega-3s. Now, the problem with most stuff, so like this example here, this is regular supermarket chicken, soy and grain-fed chicken. Same with pork. Remember what I said earlier? Monogastric animals. They eat lots of grains and soy. That's polyunsaturated fats, goes into their body, their fat is unstable. And it also causes a lot of omega-6. Now, when a food has lots of omega-6, it's not only is it unstable in the fats, it's also highly inflammatory. And most people have a horrible omega-6 to 3 ratio. You eat lots of grain and soy-fed chicken, you eat lots of nuts, right, even if you're eating whole food, and then on top of that you eat processed goy slop. Your omega-6 is through the roof, your omega-3 is mid. And then people say, oh, just eat more salmon, eat more fatty fish to bring it up. But then what you're doing is you're overloading your body with too much polyunsaturated fat. So yes, you might have omega-3s, but now you've got so much unstable fat that your body is unstable. So what you need to do to fix that ratio, cut out pointless shit like nut butter, have salmon once a week or fatty fish once a week, stop eating, I would just say stop eating chicken in general. Again, treat it like a cheat meal. Like, why do you need chicken when you've got steak? Right? Or beef mince. You know, you don't have to spend a fortune on steak. Beef mince is, in a way, better than steak. More collagenous tissue, which your body wants. And guys, like, if you're in the UK, pretty much all beef you get is 90% grass-fed. So don't stress. Like, I sometimes buy my beef from the supermarket. Right? And I have people, I blocked a guy the other day because he kept replying to all my stories saying, I hope that beef is grass fed, I hope this. And I'm like, mate, like, what are you doing? Yeah, the guy was literally skinny fat, and yeah, I'm not going to go into that. But anyway, he tried to tell me that I should be eating grass fed. One, it is grass fed because it's from the UK, right? It's not really the same problem that they have in America. Now, you can go the extra step and get grass finished, even better, elite. But cows, because they're not monogastric animals, even if they're only 90% grass fed, that 10% of grain that they eat isn't going to do much. It maybe takes them from 1% polyunsaturated fat content to 2%. Right? It's really not that big of a deal. So that's why you eat more red meat, because it's fantastic for you. And then another big mistake is cruciferous vegetables. Broccoli, kale, cabbage. Why is it like people eat broccoli, kale, cabbage, Brussels sprouts, and they can't stop farting? Yeah, there's a reason for that. There's a reason why when people eat certain cruciferous vegetables, it worsens anything inflammatory. Eczema, right? Skin conditions, inflammation of joints. It gets worse when you eat certain vegetables. Why? Because your body doesn't want it. Stick to root vegetables, right? I eat 2 carrots a day. The carrots with the beta carotene is great for your skin. And also good for clearing out your liver from excess estrogen. So carrots are high test. Eat raw carrots. The dirtier the better as well. Right, true. Like if it has a little bit of dirt on it, that's good. Good for B12. It sounds crazy, but I would wash them overall just for pesticide purposes. But you know, that's just one thing to bear in mind. So other stuff to avoid, which I see people do all the time, right? Protein shakes, protein powder. Yes, even the protein powder that is organic and is clean. The reason why you avoid it is because protein powder goes. Basically it's whey, right? It's whey powder, which is. When they do cheese making and they separate whey from the milk fat and everything else, the whey is that pure protein from the milk, right? And people think it's good because it's pure protein and it's quickly absorbed. But the fact that it's quickly absorbed is exactly the reason why it's bad. It goes so fast through your system because it's not mixed with any fat with anything else, and it actually inflames your gut. So obviously it's even worse when it's got emulsifiers, sweeteners and a bunch of bullshit in it. But even when it's pure, it just goes right through you. And again, you don't need it. I hit over 200 grams of protein a day, easy, eating 8 eggs, 20 grams of cheese, a tub of Greek yogurt, 500 grams of beef bits. That's like 230 grams of protein. It's so easy when you are eating the right foods, right? And I've still got plenty of room for carbs, and that's on my cutting diet. You know, when I'm not even going and forcing steps either, I just rely on my NEAT movement. Because remember what we said earlier about thyroid, about repeat? It upregulates, you move more, you have more like NEAT movement. It all matters. Now, creatine or any supplements containing these ingredients, stabilizers, sweeteners, emulsifiers, don't touch them, right? The only creatine you should be using is pure creatine. So creatine is just creatine, non-flavored. Mass gainers, do I need to say it? Look at the ingredients, look at what it does to your stomach. Bread, biggest thing. Yes, even modern sourdough. Again, treat sourdough like a cheat meal, right? Regular bread from the supermarket, never have it if you care about your health. Sourdough, like Jason's, once in a while is fine, like, you know, cheat meal. The reason why is because even Jason's sourdough is made from modern refined flour, and modern refined flour doesn't have anywhere near as much in it that old, like medieval types of flour would have had. Bread used to actually be like a superfood. Now it's like pure, undigestible sugar in your body, which inflames your gut even more, has too much gluten content, which you can't digest. So unfortunately, even sourdough isn't that good, right? Salads, lots of cruciferous veg, probably loaded with seed oils, does nothing for you, tastes like shit. Why do you need them? Chicken and rice, turkey, bacon, pork, all of this lean meat stuff. Like, not so much pork, but like that type of meat is just bad for all the reasons I described earlier, from what they eat. Like even pigs, like the pig I saw today eating its own mess from a puddle. Like, you don't want to eat that. And most chicken and turkey is fed on awful types of food, therefore it's highly inflammatory in your body. So you don't want to do that. Now, pillar 6, the most important pillar, and the thing that everyone gets wrong, right? And I get quite passionate about this, right? So most of you, you've sat through this, you've got more information, but most of you already have information. You have enough information, even probably before this call, to have something that's going to make a difference to your life, right? You could go on ChatGPT, my Instagram, right? YouTube. You could look at my YouTube. You've got the information there. You all say you know how to lose weight. You all say you kind of know how to get high testosterone, but none of you are actually doing it. None of you are in that 1% of great physique, fantastic blood work, everything's working. And how do I know that? Because I have hundreds of conversations with guys every day that say, yeah, I know what I'm doing, I know this and this. And then they're also like, oh, but I'm not confident about this, I'm not consistent, oh, but this, oh, but this. If that's what you're saying, it means you don't really know what you're doing. There is something going wrong and you don't fully trust yourself on this journey, right? And what does that come down to? A lack of structure and clarity. It ties back into exactly what I was talking about earlier, right? About when I started, I had no structure or clarity. I was just doing it because I thought, well, I guess I've got to eat better. I guess I've got to do this. And you don't know where you're going, right? So these are some of the worst things I hear guys say, which is the exact reason why they'll never change. And I'm using real examples of people that have said this, and I'll speak to them years later or months later, and they're exactly in the same spot. Because, well, let's go over them, right? So the one I hear a lot is, I just want to be healthy. Guys, if that's your goal, you're going to struggle. Because health is intangible. It's unquantifiable. I'm using big words here. But what is health? What is different about your life tomorrow if you're healthy? Oh, but I'm healthy. Well, what does that look like? How does that show up in your relationship? How does that show up in the way you feel day to day? And I asked that of a lot of you, and you just don't know, right? Or a lot of guys don't know. And that is so detrimental when you're trying to see changes, because if you don't know what you're working towards and you have no clear goal of what you want, there's nothing strong enough to pull you back when bad decisions and temptations come into play. Right? When you actually need to stick to something, no one sticks to a full plan to see great results with just the general vague thought of, I want to be healthy. Doesn't happen. And it's too comfortable of a thought as well. Everyone wants to be healthy. Fat people, obese people want to be healthy. You like genuinely speak to a guy who is obese and eats takeaways every day. He will say, yeah, I value my health. I do want to be healthy. It's just this and this. They all say it. If you want a different outcome, you got to think different. Right? Another thing as well. So I'm eating to feel good. Same thing. Right? Feeling good comes with achieving high testosterone, following a structure, having everything dialed in. You can't just eat a bit more steak, feel good. You might eat steak today, feel good, eat crap tomorrow, feel bad. And if you zoom out and look at the long run of your life, you've spent 50% or if not more of your life feeling bad. And even the days that you feel good, you don't know what feeling good really is because you've never truly got your testosterone levels dialed in. So just bear that in mind. Another thing is taking it one step at a time. Another word for comfort zone. There's no reason to take it one step at a time if you know what you're doing. Taking it one step at a time is, I am basically staying within my own comfort bubble. I'm not going to have anyone holding me accountable, anyone dragging me out of that comfort bubble. I just want to take baby steps. And that is like, you will never build enough momentum to get out of your situation, right? There's a great analogy about this. A rocket ship needs momentum to get into space. It doesn't build momentum by being slow and slow. Like, you've got to move quick so that things change. Because when things change, you get motivation. Oh, like this week I look different to how I did last week. That is a big reason to keep going. Whereas, I'm going to try and just have a bit more whole food this week. It eventually just fizzles out into nothing and you end up staying the same for years and years and years. Don't be that guy. Other things like, I'll wait until things settle down. Again, there's no reason to wait until things have settled down. It doesn't matter what you're doing. And I don't mean to come across as unsympathetic when I say this, right? But my life is busy. I'm a business owner. I have done this while working a full-time job, while training MMA full-time, being very busy, right? I've had a girlfriend of nearly 3 years, right? I've had a lot going on. And you make it work because, one, it doesn't require time. You don't need time to make better diet decisions. I had a conversation with the guy and he was like, oh yeah, I don't have time to eat better. So I'm like, well, what do you eat? Because you must eat, right? And he's like, well, yeah, I eat. So I'm like, well, you don't need extra time to eat differently. You just need to make different choices. So you go to the shop anyway, correct? Yes. You cook anyway, correct? Well, yeah. Or I spend a fortune on Uber Eats, which is just retarded. You're going to piss all your money away on Uber Eats and eat crap. Like, I'm doing all this stuff. All you have to do is just switch the choices around. Beef mince takes 5 minutes to cook. Greek yogurt bowls take 30 seconds to prepare. Steak takes 5 minutes. Eggs take 5 minutes. You don't need to be doing fancy recipes and meal prep, right? So things settling down is not a reason to not lock in. It's a excuse, right? You don't need to do more training, most likely, unless your goal is to genuinely put on significant muscle mass. And even then, you only need to train 3 days a week for 45 minutes a session. Do you know how easy that is to fit in? Another thing is my missus holding me back. Look, I'm going to say a few words here which some of you might find a bit, challenging. But you are the man. You're the leader. If you are letting your missus hold you back, it means you are living in the symptom of low testosterone, which is that you're not taking the lead. So as long as you don't do something about it, she will always, in theory, hold you back, because you're never being the man who steps forward and says, no, this is what I'm doing now. Right? You can't wait for her approval, or for her to do it first, or for her to suddenly wake up one day and want to eat better food. Like, statistically, women are less focused on their health and diet and testosterone than men are. Right? Way less. You know, look at a girl, like, in a way I suppose understandable, periods and whatnot, but a lot of them are constantly going off their diet. They don't follow a structure, right? You cannot wait for your missus to do it for you. You have to do it, right? And you have to be the guy that leads by example and clearly shows the results, and she will come along. She will follow your lead. And even if she tries to drag you away from it at times, it doesn't matter, right? Even my girlfriend sometimes now wants me to do stuff that I don't want to do diet-wise, and I say no. Right? It will never stop completely. You just learn to be so grounded in what you do that it just has no effect. And it doesn't affect anything truly. That, if anything, respects you more for being grounded in what you do. So another thing is, I don't care about my physique. Well, I covered this earlier. Your physique is your health. Right? And also, as a man, if you don't care about your physique, I would say you're lacking ambition. Right? Your physique, do you know how good it feels to wake up and your physique is a daily reminder of your ability to achieve? Like, I've literally heard men say, I don't care about my physique. Meanwhile, they won't wear tight-fitting clothes or take their shirt off. Like, the actions are not matching up with the language there. You cannot say, I don't care about the way I look, if you aren't, completely confident. And even if you do have the confidence to take your shirt off, what are you thinking about the way you look? It's part of you thinking, I could look better. Like, if this doesn't match my standards for myself, but, it's okay, I'm just focusing about health. It's the wrong mindset, right? Your health improves when your physique improves. It's all tied in. And having a good physique is a cheat code for life. It really does, give you self-confidence and also open up opportunities. And it puts you at a different vibrational frequency if you want to get into the spiritual side of things. And finally, I don't have time to eat better. I've already been over that. So these are the things that keep guys stuck, right? And all of this comes under the thing of lack of structure and clarity. Yeah, so once again, right, imagine your goal is to be healthy. What's different about your life in 6 months? You probably don't have an answer. So if you don't know what it is that you're trying to work towards, how are you going to resist temptation? And this all comes down to the comfort zone. The only reason why guys don't want to work on their physique, why guys don't want to go straight in and just burn all bridges behind them and say, no, this is my lifestyle now, is the comfort zone. And what's crazy is that we all understand and agree the comfort zone is the death of dreams. If you want to achieve something in your life, you cannot do it within the comfort zone. It just doesn't happen. You know, whatever you believe in, I'm a Christian, I believe in God, but if you believe in other stuff, the universe, whatever, everything's the same universally. If you don't leave your comfort zone, you won't achieve. It just doesn't happen to any significant amount if you stay in your comfort zone. So just bear that in mind. Every time you choose the comfortable option, you are moving away from your goal, right? Your life that you really want, you are moving away from by being comfortable. Yeah, and that's more a mental thing. I don't mean physical. Some guys take that literally and think, right, so I've got to train 6 days a week and be as uncomfortable as possible. No, right? The method is uncomfortable in itself because you're changing what you've been doing for 30 years maybe. That is uncomfortable alone. You don't need to ruin yourself physically and go full on David Goggins, right? So we've done this already, right? We've done this picture thing. I'm not going to get you guys to do it again. I'm sure if you've been watching this, you are well aware of how different your life would be if you had like the physique that you want and the testosterone and you were dialed in. You could actually follow a structure. If you can't, then you probably haven't got much imagination, or you're just lying to yourself, or maybe you're not putting the effort in, right? And it's important to think about these things. So ultimately, this comes down to your comfort zone, right? The knowledge is there. I've given you knowledge about the structure. You know, there's still more to learn, right? Like the guys who are in my program have all the information, like not only there, but tailored to them, right? But you know, even with what I've taught you on this, you have enough to go apply it to your life and make a huge difference if you do it. But that if is a very big if. So can you see now after this how this is actually doable? How time has fuck all to do with it. You know, how like diet choices and stuff are actually very easy to understand. How you don't have to go carnivore, you don't have to starve yourself, you don't have to train a week long, and you can have a very different life purely from what you put in your body. So just imagine for a second, imagine you started a year ago. Imagine you locked in a year ago. How much different would your life be right now? You know, a year ago for me, today, I was still kind of starting up my business. I still wasn't where I am now testosterone-wise. I've changed massively in a year from locking in. A humongous amount. My physique, my testosterone, my business, everything. It's all skyrocketed in a year, 1 year. So imagine where you are right now. Everything you want, everything that feels out of reach. The physique that you really want, which feels like, oh, you know, I'd love to have it, but it just doesn't feel tangible yet. I don't feel like I'm really going to get it. Everything that feels so far away, you could literally have if you started a year ago. Like you would have it now if you started a year ago. And for some of you, it might not even be a year. It might be 3 months. It might be 6 months. You'd be amazed, and I will show you my client results. You'll be amazed at how quick some people will change in a matter of months when they actually remove all the bullshit and just lock in on a method. You would be amazed. So obviously, coming back to what I promised at the start, right? This is the part where I'm going to pitch. I'm going to talk about what I do and what I offer. And yeah, some of you are probably going to drop off at this point, but a lot of you are serious and you know you've actually got value from this. So once again, like I stick by my word earlier, if you feel like you haven't got value from this, then you're more than welcome to leave, right? I wouldn't want you to stick around if you didn't think that this was worth watching. But if you have got value from this and you're well aware of your situation, you're well aware of like how much your life could improve, then just hear what I've got to say, right? So I'm going to give you guys an option at the end of this to take action, right? I'll explain what that looks like. So what I do want to say is this though, I am not trying to help everyone. And the next step, which I will walk you through, is basically the filter. It's the thing that not only helps me run my business, but also helps select people that are going to actually see results, people that are serious about locking in, that aren't going to lie, that aren't also going to waste their money, because at the end of the day, obviously I'm charging, and the last thing I want is for anyone to sign up and not be a good fit, right? Because there are no guarantees. I can't guarantee results if you don't follow it, if you don't have the mindset to lock in, and that is exactly why we have this vetting process. So at the end of this, right, I'm going to give you guys, I'm going to post a link in the chat. I'm going to give you guys an opportunity to, like, there'll be a type form that you type out and you can book in a call with me. You ask for some of your details, why you want to do it, you know, whether you're really serious. And the call is free, right? I'm giving my time to talk to people for free because I want to see who's a good fit and who's not, right? You don't have to pay for this call. This call is a strategy call. Right, and we'll go over your situation, see what needs to change, see if it makes sense to work together. Yeah, if you're a good fit for my program, and you know, whether you like me and you want to work with me or not, and that's where we go from there, right? And the spots are limited because I've got people watching this. I'm running more of these in the future. I've got a page that's rapidly growing. I can't help everyone. You know, maybe my business will get to a point where I'm employing other coaches to do my job for me. I don't know if I want to do that because I've got the source up here. I want to be able to teach people directly, and hey, there probably are plenty of people that know as much as me, but no one knows as much as me about what I do. So I want to work, again, directly with the people that are serious, and for that, I've got to be careful of how many people I take on. So these are some of the clients I've worked with in the past, right? You know, so we've got Anthony, Daniel, Sterling, Tyler, which is just, yeah, this is a glimpse of some of the people I've worked with. So Anthony, right? Anthony's actually a salesman. He lives in New York, and he does high ticket sales. He does he sells loans basically for a big company. So he's actually quite sedentary in his lifestyle, very stressful kind of lifestyle. Like Wolf of Wall Street type shit. And anyway, enough of that. Let's talk about his actual physiology. Like you can see with Anthony came to be skinny fat. And this was 6 months of transformation, right? So we got him shredded, and that's what he wanted. But it wasn't just that, it was also the way he felt. And he actually texted me one day and was like, I feel insanely different. Like, just out of the blue, like, I feel insanely different. And I was like, well, yeah, like, it's what the testosterone is. Like, at first, I thought he'd changed something and that it was, like, a really big thing. But he was like, no, this has just been building up since working with you. And Anthony, motivated, he wanted to make this work the whole time, and he did, right? And he saw crazy results. And now at the end, like he's got a whole new lifestyle. And it's ironic because Anthony actually came to me. He was already partly living the lifestyle, like probably a lot of you. He wasn't a complete fresh newbie with it. He wasn't a guy eating cereal and having no idea what he was doing. He was eating steak. He was eating some whole food, but he had no structure. And you'd be amazed at how following a structure could literally be the difference between being like this, skinny fat, a guy who eats whole foods but doesn't feel his best, is skinny fat, thinks he's doing things right, is confused, trying to figure it out, to going to shredded, to having higher testosterone levels and feeling different as a result. Purely from the structure. Now this is Daniel. Daniel was the one who was on the carnivore diet, and Daniel actually had this transformation in 3 months, which I knew this was going to happen because Daniel had that foundation from the carnivore and he'd been lifting, but he was, as you can see, he was fatter here with less muscle mass, and he lost a lot of fat, gained a lot of muscle mass in the process of working with me. Exactly the thing that I went through the body comp, cutting and gaining muscle at the same time. And even though he was on the carnivore diet, he wasn't losing fat because he was still eating a big quantity of food. Some guys, and Daniel, is one of these guys who can eat a lot of food, right? Some of you can just put a lot of food away. It's genetic kind of variation. Some men can just eat a lot, and that can easily apply to a carnivore diet and stop you losing a significant amount of weight. And Daniel, running a full-time business, sedentary again, he's an IT technician and he has his own app, so he was doing a lot, was able to see these results because once again we're not focusing on loads of output like 10k steps a day and you've got to do this, like we had him going to the gym a few times a week, doing some general movement. He would go on walks when he could, and that was that. Right, and within 3 months he lost a significant amount of fat and bulked up. Like, look at the shoulder difference and the width of his arms and everything. Like, he really put on muscle mass. And then we got Tyler. So Tyler lost a lot of fat. Tyler, with us, our goal was just shred fat, and in 6 months he went from about 25 to 30% body fat down to about maybe 18%, and he even got to the point where he wasn't able to do chin-ups or dips, and we got him doing 6 dips in a row, completely no assistance whatsoever, and we were regularly tracking his gym progress, and he was seeing insane progress, all because he decided to take a step forward and just better his life. And Tyler was at a point, he had his own house, he was working full time, and he was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I want to get fit. I'm sick of kind of being in this hovering middle ground of nothing happening. So he just invested, worked with me, and within 6 months completely changed the trajectory of his life, just like that, in 6 months. So what does my coaching package actually include, right? So what we do, right, it comes down to 3 pillars, similar to the ones I explained earlier. So we've got the anabolic nutrition part. We focus on the physiology. So it's not just eating this is your diet plan, track your macros, track your calories. Everything you eat is designed to maximize your testosterone hormones. It makes it physically easier to follow a diet. You are eating food that is enjoyable. You are becoming a man with new habits. You get rid of your cravings. Your testosterone increases. You biologically feel different because of what you're eating, right? And then we've got the training part. Most men just train to do a workout. We're training for actual specific outcomes. So all 3 of those days that you go to the gym, right, you're motivated to go. You see a reason to be there, right? You want to be there. You want to improve whatever it was last week, and there's a clear, you have all the energy in the world because of the recovery, because of the testosterone, right? And when you're seeing weekly change, the fact that Daniel was able to see that change in 3 months, nothing motivates you more to keep lifting. Yeah, and then the whole situation of, oh, I just fell off the gym is unheard of. It doesn't happen. And then ultimately, pillar 3 is the consistency and the identity. And this is where most gym PTs are useless. Paying someone to count your reps for you and just throw a generic meal plan, here's your calorie and macro tracking plan, right? It doesn't change you as a person. My job is, like, you are working directly with me. I am tailored. I'm tailoring everything to you, even my communication style. I am getting in your head to change you as a person, right? And if you don't want to change, fundamentally you're not going to change. But that's why, again, there's this selection process. But this is like, we are changing you. You are becoming a man that shows up for himself, that has not only taken a step into investing in himself, but does the work, wants to do the work, and continues to do it for years to come, well after we stop working together. I don't offer monthly recurring plans forever and ever. As much as I like working with guys, I don't want to see their faces forever, because to me, I'm not doing my job as a coach. Right? My job is to be in and out. Come in, change your life, you go and do it. Right? Forever afterwards. After whatever period of time we work together. Because that's what a true habitual change looks like. Rather than stay in your comfort zone again, paying a coach monthly money each month just to show up and count your reps and give you a plan that you're probably not going to follow. And I've had literal clients like Stuart who came to me from one of those coaches. And he was like, yeah, but I've got this coach I'm paying. I'm like, well, what's he doing for you? Well, he gives me the diet. So is that it? He's like, yeah, well, he kind of counts my reps in the gym. But he was fat for 6 months. He'd literally not changed anything. And that's why. You're still in your comfort zone. You're not changing as a person. You know, so what do you actually get? You would get personalised, tailored plans, right? Both for diet and training. It starts off a certain way. It changes along with the progress that we make. Right, it's not just one plan. We tailor it to you. We change it as many times as we actually need to, you know, to an extent. Right, it's not. We don't change it for comfort reasons. We change it for reasons that make it more easy to follow and accessible. And then it changes alongside your progress. You will learn what meals you can have, what cheat meals you can have. You can start having ice cream. You can start having lots more variation. And the training will change along with that too. You will move from being someone who focuses on regular gym stuff, machines, to weighted calisthenics and being an absolute pro in the gym. And then most importantly, you are getting directly mentored by me. I will be personally mentoring you one-on-one throughout your whole time, holding your hand throughout the entire process, right? To make sure the results come about. And this looks like weekly calls. So every week we would have a scheduled day where we do our call, or we would move the days around if we need to. And you have full-time access to me as a mentor. And then we also have my school community. So I have a actual school community with my members in. So all my clients get access to it. It's got hours of content. Similar to this webinar, but more in detail, to specifics, right? Sections about the gym, sections about what training to do, sections about what food to avoid, sections about how to do your midweek shopping. Hours of content that you will watch in between working with me, right? So if you have that drive to learn, which I'm sure most of you do, you would be doing that. And I'm obviously adding more stuff to that school community while I'm working with my clients, so there's more content there for them, so you can always learn. And once, whatever period of time you stop working with me for, you still have lifetime access to the community, so you can always pop your head in, see what's new, you know, get like brushed up with what's up to date, and learn from there. So that's what you guys get, right? When you sign up with me, that is what you get. And I've got a question: is it going to be one day, or is this your day one? One day is the mindset which keeps most guys stuck. Right, I'll do it one day. I'm just gonna, you know, I need to think. I need to kind of, you know, like wait a bit, or wait till things have settled down. Exactly the things that we spoke about earlier. Or you could be a guy like one of my clients who's like, no, this is it. It's like bungee jumping. You do it. You just start, and then once you've started, it's like, oh, I'm bloody glad I did that. I can't actually imagine what my life would have been like if I didn't have that experience. It's called, you know, leaving your comfort zone, stepping out of your comfort zone and doing it. So this call, right, this strategy call might be for you if you're actually serious. If you've been trying things for a long time, nothing's really clicked. You've always said to yourself you're gonna, you know, do your own research, you're gonna try and find stuff out, and nothing's really like done it for you. You might have seen some little changes here and there, but nothing's really changed. Things have been slow, or maybe you have been completely stuck. Then if that's the case, this call is definitely for you. It would make sense for you to do this, right? And I think a lot of you know that. So what I'm going to do now is quickly go over like shortly we're gonna jump into some questions, and what I want to do is just like have a bit of a live interaction with some of you guys. So I will open that chat in a minute, and I will just talk to you guys. Whoever's left, well, I'm sure some people have dropped off, but whoever's left, we will just have a chat and answer your questions. But what I want to go over quick is some of the things that guys say, which are like, you know, things that they throw out as like a reason not to do it, or even genuine concerns. And I want to talk about this. So number one is people say, how do I know I'm a good fit for you? And how you know that is mainly through booking a call, right? We would find out, you know, we would talk. I don't buy it. Like, I just want to get to know you. And we'd see what your mentality is like. If you are one of those people that just, like, you're not willing to make the changes. Like, you're like, oh, but I want this different. I want this different. I want to keep eating the stuff that's kept me stuck. Then I'll be like, well, you're probably not a good fit, right? Because how are you going to do the work that's required of you? In terms of what it is that you need, right? Are you not afraid to take risks? Are you actually in a position where you are ambitious enough to want the best for yourself? If you just want an average physique, then you probably aren't a good fit, right? But the distinction is knowing whether you are someone who wants an average physique or a great physique, right? Because a lot of you actually want a great physique. You've just tricked yourself into thinking you want an average physique because you just don't want to leave your comfort zone. Well, if that's the case, you know, that's going to hold you back, right? And if you are genuinely like lying to yourself, you need to not lie to yourself so we can help you. So mainly it's being upfront, being honest, wanting to make the change, actually like being willing to take the risk, take the step forward and not look back, right? And do a big thing in your life. It's another thing I hear. Can't we just use the information? Well, I did kind of cover this earlier, so for a lot of you guys, like, information isn't the thing holding you back. It's the application of that information. It's knowing how to structure it. It's having the clarity. It's having that accountability in your life, right? Keeping yourself in the momentum. Some of you don't realise how like easily you fall off when you start listening to yourselves too much. Your own brain gets in the way. You know, you don't like, you think, oh, I've made my own plan from ChatGPT, but then you don't stick to it. Some guys do. Not every man in the world needs coaching, and I'm not trying to help everyone. There are plenty of people that could just have the information and make it work. But often, those are the types of guys that wouldn't be on this presentation in the first place because they already have the information. You can just do a Google search, find your own stuff. So really, you've got to be honest with yourself. It's probably not just the information that's the problem. It's your ability to put it into practice and whether you actually do that consistently or not. Again, I don't have time. I've worked with clients that are business owners, running a business, working a full-time job. Clients with kids, right? I've got a client, James, who literally lives in Wiesbaden in Germany. He's on a military base, right? He's there all day, doesn't even have access to his phone until he gets home, and he's making it work, right? Because it doesn't take time. It takes better decisions. And ironically, working with a mentor saves you time. When you work with a mentor, you don't have to make decisions yourself. It removes the decision fatigue. It removes all the like the thinking and all the what do I do? Like, do I do this? Do I do it? It removes all that. So all you have to do is just simply put it into action. It saves you a lot of time. So not having time is not a reason to do it. It's whether you're willing to put the mental energy into it or not. And that's more so the problem. And that comes down to whether, once again, you're a good fit or not. If you don't want to put mental energy into it, then I can't promise anything. But at the same time, could that be an ongoing symptom of low testosterone? Not wanting to put effort into things, right? That's the very reason that you're trying to fix it in the first place. So it's important to recognise that difference. Now, this is an interesting one. I've tried coaching before and it didn't work. Now, this could either mean two things. Either it means, one, you're the problem, right? And it sounds harsh, right? And some people genuinely are. But more so, what coaches have you been working with? Have you worked with a coach that's done everything I'm saying I'm going to do? Or is actually working with you to change your habits? That has actually done my method, the ancestor maxing method. I mean, I can almost guarantee you that you haven't worked with a coach that does that. Right? Have you worked with a coach that's changed your physiology, that hasn't demanded you train a week long? That actually listens to you and cares about you and sees you full time and isn't just a long-term coach that's just kind of distanced himself from you and is there to throw you your plan and answer the odd question, right? That's the ultimate thing. So it's learning to again tell that difference about whether you've you're the reason why it didn't work, or whether your coach was the reason. And for a lot of guys, they just haven't had good coaches. I spoke to a guy once who literally invested in a coach, signed a contract to pay monthly, had to fulfill the contract. Coach stops replying to all his questions, but as soon as the guy said to the coach, "Oh, I want to back out of the contract because you're not answering my questions," the coach replied and said, "No, you've got to pay the rest of the contract." There are some real nasty coaches out there that do not give a fuck about their clients. And the way to see them, right, is often they will tell you easy lies rather than hard truths, like I am. They will tell you, yeah, you can eat whatever you want, it's fine, we'll do whatever you want. Like, they make it sound really nice and easy to lure you in, and then they just ditch you, right? I'm not here to do that. If this scares you, it's probably not a good fit, right? But if you see this thing, no, like, fucking, I want to make it work. Look, at least you know I'm not bullshitting you, right? You know what you're getting yourself into when you do this. Now, this is a big thing I hear a lot. I need to think about it. Let me think about it. Let me spend some time, right? You have been thinking for far too long. A lot of you have been thinking about it anyway. And even guys that have, I've had it on a call. They come on a call and they say, "Oh, I just want to think about it before taking action." I'm like, well, no, right, then it's not a good fit. Because if you need to think about it after you have been wanting this for years and years and years, it's clearly an issue with procrastination. You don't need to think more. What has thinking done? Thinking hasn't changed your physique. Thinking hasn't done anything other than delay what you want. So then you're given the opportunity to change and you want to do more thinking. That's not what a person who takes action does. And a lot of you know that. And once again, the think about it thing, or even pray about it, which I believe or not I have heard. And for that one, right, I mean, we all, there is a tale of a guy who was on a boat, kept saying, "I'm praying to God, God's going to help me." Boats arrive to save him. "No, don't need your help. I'm praying to God, God's going to save me." 5 boats come by, he refuses them all, says God's going to help him. The guy drowns. Gets to where he goes, right? It's a bit of a joke story, but it's true. And God says to him, "I literally sent you 5 people to help you out." Don't be that guy, right? If you believe in God and you pray, remember that God sends you the signs to take action. Learn to tell that distinction. God's not just going to make you fit one day. It doesn't work like that. And the other thing is talking to your wife. I heard so many men who literally say to me their wife is the reason why they're struggling. "Oh, she's not on board with it. Oh, I've kind of pulled back and forth between my missus and everything I'm doing, this and that." And then you want to go and talk to her about the thing that you need to do for yourself to take the lead. We all know how that turns out, right? She's not going to tell you to go and invest the money into yourself and take the risk. Of course not. One, she's not you. She doesn't know what it feels like to be you. And in a way, you can't blame her, right? She if you are having genuine problems from low testosterone, she might not fully trust you. So when you come and say, "Yeah, I've got this mentorship that I want to invest in," she's going to think, "Oh, fuck no, I don't trust you to do that," right? Or "I don't trust your judgment with things like that." And she's going to talk you out of it. And that is how men stay stuck for years. Listening to everyone but the person that actually cares about them, which is either me, the mentor, or themselves. When you defer to other people like that, you are absolving yourself of responsibility. And once again, almost staying in the comfort zone. It doesn't help you. Another thing, can't you get a normal gym PT? Look, if you want a normal gym PT, get one. But just understand that most of them aren't going to do the things that I'm listing about changing your habits, about focusing on testosterone. They're just going to be there to count your reps and give you a generic plan. Some people find them useful, some people find them helpful, and I know most guys who tend to use them are guys that are regular gym goers already that just want that extra push, right? So they pay someone monthly, cheap, to just be there for them, and that's totally fine. But if you are looking for a serious transformation, do not shop for price and think, "Oh, let me just go for the cheaper option and get the PT." You're going to waste your money, right? You might as well invest in the full thing or not at all. And again, you're choosing the comfortable option. Why? When it's your health and everything else, right? This is, you can't put a price on it. This is the thing that's going to literally affect the quality of your life. And this is another one I hear, right? Is why can't I just get my friend to help me? I've got a friend who's jacked. Listen, your friend has his own life. He's got his own things to worry about. He is not going to dedicate all of his energy into making sure that you see results. And also, you're not paying for it. It's free. You're not going to value it like you would with an actual paid mentorship. You're going to wake up and think, oh yeah, my friend Bill said this. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I won't. Again, comfort zone. Like you're saying, oh, I'll just get my friend to help me. Your friend's not one that involved in you. Even if he's the best friend ever, he's got his own life, right? And I've got friends that know me that are out of shape, and I'm a literal coach. And even then, my advice is not enough to get them in shape. Why? Because they haven't committed to changing themselves. And I'm sure they've probably hopped on calls with different coaches and said, or spoke to different coaches and said, no, I've got a friend who's in shape. I can ask him. And guess what? They stay the same for ages because they're not leaving their comfort zone. Another one is whether your friends and family approve. Listen, it's not their business, right? And I'll be honest, if you're in a position where you have to rely on your family, you're probably not a good fit for my program, right? I typically don't work with anyone under 18. So if you haven't got your own income and stuff, one, you probably won't be able to afford what I'm offering, but two, it's going to make things difficult. You need to be able to buy your own food and stuff. But if you're outside of that and you're still worried about maybe, again, your missus or other friends and family, just know that, if they're not where you want to be, especially the friend part, if your friends are all unhealthy, unfit, low testosterone, and you don't want to be like them, don't listen to them. Don't take their advice on how to be healthy. People will try and drag you down. Even if they're not bad, malicious people, they will do it subconsciously. It's called crabs in a bucket. The saying comes from when you put crabs in a bucket, they all pile in together. If one of them tries to escape, the others freak out because they think, why is he doing something different to us? So they all drag him. Not only do they drag him back into the bucket, they will then tear him to pieces for trying to get out of the bucket. Right? It's a real saying and it's true. It's the sheep, the herd mentality. So you've got to disconnect from it. And another one is, what if buying good produce is too expensive? Big misconception I hear is people thinking they need to go to the butchers for everything. You do not need to go to the butchers for everything, right? Like I've listed, you can still buy red meat from the supermarket and buy lots of good stuff from the supermarket. And it's very affordable, believe it or not, because you are actually eating less food overall. You're still eating potatoes and stuff, which is lots of volume, very filling. It's not expensive at all, right? Don't get into your head that it's expensive. If you want to spend more, by all means, spend more. But it's not. It's only a bit difficult if you're trying to feed a whole family. If you've got a whole family of 4 that you're trying to feed, yes, things can get difficult with quantities, but even then, if they're all following the exact diet and dialed in, it would work out roughly the same. It's only a problem when it ends up as a cross between the two. And again, this is why you go all in instead of half in, half out. And, this one, big one, I don't want to spend money on my health and fitness. This to me sounds wild, but I understand why people say this, right? The biggest mistake you guys make is viewing your health and fitness as spending on yourself. Like buying a nice thing for yourself. I'm going to go and invest in my health, because I fancy it. Or I want to, as if you're going to buy a nice new t-shirt. This is not only your quality of life, your body, the vessel that you live life in, your health, your longevity, but it also affects the people around you, your family, your friends. If you're adding years of not only actual years, but quality years onto your life, how do you think that affects your wife, your kids, and everyone around you? It's not just you. You're doing it for yourself. And people spend thousands on a car, on weddings, on holidays, on random bits of furniture in the house, but they won't spend that money on their health and fitness. That is crazy. And when you think about it, it is crazy. And the reason why a lot of people think like that is because they still view it as spending on themselves, like it's a nice little thing to have. It's not. It's your health. It's your longevity. It's your quality of life. If you are an ambitious man, taking yourself from living at 20% of your potential to 100% does not have a price on it. And that's what I'm saying. If you're a good fit for this, you would not be scared to invest in yourself because you see the benefit of it, right? So just bear that in mind. And again, I'm assuming all of you work, you're all earning money. You've got money coming in. Do you ever think you're going to sit there one day and think, oh, I regret spending that money on my health and fitness and becoming the man I am today. I should have just kept the money and done nothing with it, or wasted it on another holiday where I'm not happy with myself, etc., etc. Doesn't make sense, does it? Think in the future as well. So if you guys still have questions, good. Right, I'm going to go over a few quick questions before we wrap this up. But ultimately, right, this is where you book a call with me. If you have anything else you want to ask, if you're curious about my program, if you actually have intention to start, book a call, right? I will put a type form in the chat right now, actually. Just bear with me while I find it. Some of you guys just ask questions while you're here. Right, and I will get back to them in a minute while I'm finding this type form. Go. Right, I'll put this in the chat. I'm going to spam it a few times. So go into my server to do this. Here we go. Right. So I'm going to put this link in the chat. And this link in the chat is going to be to fill out the form, right, and obviously apply. If you guys want to message me on Instagram as well, let's say like you come off the stream, you lost it, just shoot me a message. I'll send you over the type form. And yeah, look, let's make history together. Right, if you're actually serious and you want to make a change, book that call, right? And don't be afraid, right? Like I said, I don't buy it. Worst case scenario, you're not a good fit, it doesn't work out, we don't move forward with anything. But best case, you invest in yourself, we start and we change your life. And I think for a lot of you, that's actually what you're seriously considering. So, yeah. So what we'll do, obviously some people have dropped off, but this has been this call's been longer than I thought it was going to be. I was actually aiming for just 2 hours, but I've ended up, maybe over-explaining and giving you guys more source than I planned to. So anyone who's still here, ask some questions in the chat now. Make yourselves known. If not, I'm going to ask a few that people have asked earlier. Sorry, answer a few that people have asked earlier, and then we'll call it a wrap. So Steve asked, what if you're lactose intolerant? It's a good question, and the good news is you can just drink raw milk. And that sounds crazy. That sounds utterly crazy, and you're going to think, what? Like, I can't risk doing that. I have had multiple friends who have been lactose intolerant, who go and drink actual raw milk, and they digest it fine. Right, and I mean raw milk. I don't mean going to the shop and buying the Graham's, the yellow top or anything like that. I mean raw milk. Right, find the shop, make sure it's 100% raw milk, try it. I guarantee you will be able to digest it. Right? You will 100% be able to digest it, because it's the reason why is because of the lactase enzyme. Right, you do produce it in your body, but pasteurized milk literally changes how your body digests and uses that enzyme to break down. So lactase breaks down lactose. Lactose intolerance means, guess what? Your body doesn't naturally produce as much of that enzyme, so therefore you drink raw milk, which it enables that enzyme more in your body, so you can actually digest it. Yes, from an A2. Or Jersey cows as well, just as good, if not better. So yeah, but obviously be careful with like yogurts and stuff. A lot of yogurts will still be like difficult to digest, but start with the raw milk. It will make a huge difference. So Tristan asked how much to work with me. So I actually have several different types of services. It all depends on what you need, and that's why I only go over it on a call. Right, I'm not here to just price drop and let the people shopping on price filter themselves out. If you're serious, you can spend an hour talking with me. It doesn't even take an hour. It takes like 30 minutes talking to me and figuring out what we do. Right. And once again, I have a range of services, so I'm not just going to list them all here. It all depends on what your needs are as well. Good coffee grounds. So you're better off getting coffee from a local farm shop, right? And they would probably source it from a local roaster. Most mainstream coffee brands just aren't ideal, but it's not the end of the world, right? As long as it's not instant coffee, it's probably going to have some pesticides on it. You're going to get pesticides on fucking everything. And I've really stressed this point to a lot of people, right? And you know, you need to think about this yourself, right? Asking these questions, because are you asking because you're already at a point of really good health and you just want to optimize it, or are you looking at all the wrong details, stepping over pounds to pick up pennies, right? Because looking at coffee granules or what quality coffee you drink, when I'm not assuming you are, by the way, asking this question, but some guys do. If you're asking that type of question and you're out of shape and you've still got everything else and the foundation's wrong, it's kind of irrelevant. What coffee you buy doesn't actually matter that much. Are you sticking to the diet long term? Are you still eating goislot? Are you carrying excess body fat? Do you have signs of low testosterone? If that's the case, don't stress about what coffee you're drinking. Like, yeah, get the organic stuff, ideally, or get fresh coffee, ideally. But don't stress too much about it. Focus on all the details that I mentioned on here. And getting the real structure dialed in. But like I said, if you are really just trying to optimise it, then yeah, like fresh coffee from a local roaster all the time, it's going to be really good quality. And some coffee machines are decent as well. If you can get the actual coffee beans and get a decent brand, although I'm not quite experienced with that because I don't have a proper like a Shark or a Ninja coffee machine, you can get some good fresh beans and have a bean to cup coffee machine, and you're going to have good quality coffee. Yeah, M&S, again, not the end of the world. Sometimes I'll buy stuff from M&S, coffee-wise. Like, I'm not perfect. I'm not one of these guys doing everything from the butcher's guys. Like, you can get fantastic results from the supermarket. Right? You can get amazing results from the supermarket. It's about how you structure it and which produce you buy. I buy my cheese from the supermarket. Loads of supermarkets sell unpasteurised cheese. Waitrose and M&S sell unpasteurised butter. That's fantastic, right? It's like super high test food. I've worked with one coach, not for testosterone for the gym, but I want to boost testosterone. Well, yeah, you know what to do. I know you put on your chat, so if you want to book a call after the holiday, absolutely, right? It depends when your holiday finishes. You might be better off just waiting a couple of days and then book in once you have like the event, because I think there's a limit on like 3 days booked in advance. I don't let people book in really far in advance. It just clogs up my calendar. If I was fighting MMA again, would I say the carbs I'm eating would fuel you for the session? Oh, 100%. So I actually forgot to mention this in the presentation, but when I did carnival for a little while, I was still fighting, and I would go to the sessions, which would be like an hour and a half long. We do an hour of training, half hour of sparring. And I would have high energy at the baseline level, like moving around, just ready to go. Like day-to-day energy, high. The second it came to intense training, it was in the bin. So as soon as we started like really heavy pad work, when I get like deep into it and your cardio is pushing, when you're on the carnivore diet, oof, like you feel it. It's it's not ideal, right? So 100% carbs. I would recommend fruits, sugars and stuff before like heavy training sessions, and yeah, it'll make a big difference. Well, you make bread at home, yeah, if you can, but again, make sure you buy unrefined flour, which can be hard to get. You need to add salt and good butter to black coffee. Yeah, I agree, but again, like coffee, the thing with coffee, right, is you want to wait at least an hour after waking up. You want to have it after eating, ideally, and you've pointed that out correctly, whoever your name is, that if you have it on an empty stomach, you should have butter. Personally, I would avoid not having it on an empty stomach unless you're doing an excessive fasting window and you need some energy. Should I avoid dark chocolate brands like Lindt and Green Black's dark chocolate organic? Yes. Green blacks aren't too bad. If you read the ingredients, a lot of them don't contain soya as far as I'm aware, but lints definitely do. So yeah, do avoid those. Those soya nuts and stuff, it's not good. Hue chocolate's good. What's it called? There's another brand, they do cacao bars, I forgot what they're called. On Bar, they're really good as well. Hand rolled cigars, yes, great. I smoke cigars, nothing wrong with them, especially if they're Cuban. It actually boosts your testosterone a little bit. Is your business on school? Yeah, the community that I listed as part of what my clients get is on school. Will this be recorded? Yes, it will. If you could pick one meat for your protein, red meat, I've already done that. Yeah, Bill Gates started printing animal meat. Yeah, I know. Shocking. Absolutely shocking. Would I say red meat causing cancer is a myth? Yeah, 100%. That whole idea of red meat causing cancer is like, again, that example I gave earlier about the whole correlation of cholesterol and heart disease. It's an out of context thing. Men who tend to eat more red meat often live a worse lifestyle overall, going to the pub more, eating more processed meat, etc. So that correlation exists from an out of context reason. If you have red meat, like really good quality steaks, and you don't eat processed shit outside of that, you are going to have amazing results, and the chance of your cancer risk goes way lower. I don't eat leafy greens. So like I said in the chat, in the presentation, root vegetables are the go-to, right? Leafy greens, they don't serve a purpose. What do you get from leafy greens that you can't get from anything else? Yeah, even the vitamin K2, it converts differently in your body, so you just don't really get it. I think it's hard to know what's correct nowadays due to the elites. Yeah, you're right, Tristan. It's true. Like, and that's why you guys shouldn't stress about the little details. Oh, microplastics. Oh, like what coffee do I drink? It's a bit like it's too meticulous. You should focus on the foundations. Eat grass-fed beef. Have your eggs pasture-raised, ideally, right? Don't drink pasteurised regular milk. Avoid processed ingredients. That as a foundation is good enough. And then if you want to actually boost testosterone and go into that, then you do everything that I've said on this presentation and follow a structure. Right, any more questions? We're going to wrap up in a couple of minutes. My mouth is getting dry and I fancy some ice cream. High key, don't eat as much salmon as I should. Well, maybe you said that before I mentioned the thing about salmon. I think you did, because, yeah. But you probably don't need to eat as much as you think, mate. Once a week is plenty. So, yeah, guys. Oh, how about Cristiano Ronaldo? Yeah, Ronaldo's diet's all right. I'm pretty sure that guy's taking stuff. Yeah. So, you guys are welcome. Why did I stop MMA? All right, last question. Because I had a career change, like a bit of an epiphany about what I wanted to do, and MMA was basically like it was great sport. I loved it, and my intention would be UFC fighter and everything. And if any of you watching this are like wanting to go pro in MMA, do not let this deter you from doing it. I wanted to earn. I wanted to provide for myself, to do something I was truly passionate about, and at the time, like, I was focusing on social media, I was focusing on that business aspect, and that's what I wanted to do. So MMA was just getting in the way of that. Also, yeah, I think I just I didn't lose love for it. I love fighting, and sometimes when I watch UFC, I'll watch it, I'm like, oh my god, I need to get back in the cage, and I probably will one day. But overall, for business reasons, I stopped. And I still train now. Like, I'm not doing nothing. Like, I do train Muay Thai, and ironically, even though I don't train MMA like I used to, I perform better now at MMA. Maybe my cardio is not quite as good because I don't do it as regularly, but my kicks are stronger, my flexibility is better, my power is better, my explosiveness is better, my skills are better even. Sometimes you take a break from something and you become better at it because you've taken a break from it and you've kind of seen things from an outside perspective. It allows you to grow. So yeah, all right, guys. Well, I hope I'm glad you guys found this video useful. Like I said, it's going to be on YouTube. Share it with your friend. I know, like in the lead up to this, I said I'm not going to do this again.
Obviously, I'm just trying to create a bit of urgency because a lot of people don't take action when they need to. Share this with your friends. Yeah, if you have friends that are in this space that are looking at self-improvement, tell them to watch this video. Get all the value from it. I really appreciate you guys, and I hope you have a fantastic evening. Thank you for watching this. And like I said, if you're serious about this, fill out the form. And yeah, take care, guys. I'll see you on the next one.